this guy's got the best worst curse of them all. God knows this game's story back to front. He knows who the villains are, who the heroine is, and every catastrophic event headed his way. His one and only goal: survive. Stay low. Don't draw attention. Dodge every dangerous plot event that's coming, because all he wanted was a simple life. No trouble, no drama. But some curse makes every villain in this world either love him or hate him. So when the bad people in this world look like that, bodies with curves that shouldn't be legal, and they're all going insane over you, which one do you even pick? Pick one, and the rest are gonna throw down just a fight over your body. According to the butterfly effect, one single choice can decide someone's entire fate. And looking back, our protagonist feels like every choice he's made is one he regrets to his core. Because right now, he's cornered, hiding by a window, while some shrill voice on the other side is calling him darling, and telling him she knows damn well he's hiding in there. She threatens to break in by force, and she means it. Something sharp punches straight through the door. Terrified, he tries to talk his way out by citing student council rules, only to find out the girl tearing the door apart is the student council president. She wants to know if he's really gonna keep running from her, pissed that he's ignored her twice in a row now, and just flat out asks if he wants to marry her. Before he can even answer that, a second girl shows up to throw her hat in the ring, and she is not thrilled about sharing him with anybody. The newcomer just smirks and sticks her tongue out at her. He tries to calm things down, but it only gets worse. A third girl drops straight down from the ceiling, clearly into him too, and now the other two are furious. This one tells him to skip the whole courtship thing and just move in with her already. The wedding's already set up, all that's missing is the groom. Just when it seems like it can't get any worse, a fourth girl shows up, shoving her way in and shouting that he already belongs to someone. Surrounded, mortified, and completely panicking, all he can think is, if nobody steps in, these girls are about to throw down for real to decide who gets him. And the question hanging over all of it is, how the hell did it come to this? It all started with that survival game he'd just beaten, feeling pretty damn good about himself, except somehow he got yanked straight into the game itself. And the kicker, he didn't even become the hero. He got dumped into the body of some nobody, a minor Viscount's kid, background character tier, about to start school at the Imperial Academy. His dad's only advice: don't cause trouble, don't draw attention. That place was packed with the kids of the Empire's most powerful nobles. The second he agrees, system windows start popping up in front of him, and his stats are so pathetic that even as a veteran player, he's never seen anything this bad. The starting quest is simple enough: get into the academy, get placed into a class, skip it, and it's instant game over. So he decides to stick to the script, stay invisible, let the actual protagonist handle everything while he plays lone wolf in the background. But the trouble starts early, right on the train to the academy, sitting in the same car as Noer, the bloodthirsty, the princess of House Tristan, the game's final boss, the one character whose storyline always ends with her clashing with the protagonist. He stares at her for so long that she asks if he needs a doctor, pointing out how pale and terrible he looks. She looks at the clueless guy, and mentions that the Duchy of Tristan cares a lot about its public image. Riding in the economy class instead of first class was actually a calculated move to show she's equal to everyone else. She tells him it's fine, though, since everyone who enters this car gives her that exact same shocked look. The real issue is that she's acting completely different from what he remembers, and he's trying to figure out why she's showing this side of herself. Since he doesn't say a word, she asks why he's acting so restless, and he stammers that he's just shy. She figures he must have heard some bad rumors floating around about her. Trying to play it off, he looks at her and says he only heard she was a really strict person. Then he adds that, actually, people mostly said she was just super weird, reminding himself that he's just an extra who can't get involved. He decides to shut up and stare out the window. Looking outside, he spots something strange and notices the student council president nearby. It looks like both of them are about to board the train. Before long, a massive boulder smashes directly into the train, tearing the car right in half. Right at that moment, her magical necklace, which detects and counters undead traps, instantly activates. Elmer always wears it, which helps her escape the deadly traps set against her. Knowing his garbage stats won't let him survive the crash, the guy grabs onto her without thinking twice. The second he does, her eyes widen, as if some strange connection just sparked between them. Elmer asks if he's alright and tells him to get off of her. In all the chaos, he didn't even realize he landed right on top of her, though he's relieved he had something to cushion his fall. Once he finally snaps back to reality, he starts apologizing non-stop. She turns her face away and tells him it's fine, assuming he tackled her like that just to shield her life. She remarks that it's the first time the guy has ever gotten this close to her, while he silently panics, knowing he only grabbed her to use her armor as a shield. Because of this, she actually starts taking an interest in him and makes a point to ask for his name. He gets a bad feeling that if he answers, he's gonna keep running into her non-stop in the future. As soon as he says his name, she smiles and says she'll never forget it. Right then, he notices on his status window that a villainess has taken an interest in him. Since he met the conditions for the special reward, he unlocks 2 new skills, Awakened Survival and Deadly Charm. Because the train belonged to the Alfandi Academy, rescue forces arrive way faster than anyone expected, and thanks to all the extra security measures, barely anyone gets hurt. Once people get treated, carriages start taking them away. Before long, everyone arrives right in front of the famous academy. After all that chaos, this is the first chance he's had to actually check out his reward. He realizes there was no way he could have figured out the unlocked conditions beforehand, no matter what he tried. Back at the Viscountcy, he wasn't acting like a villain, so finding a neutral person in a place full of happy people was basically impossible. Even though the reward is still locked, he's dying to see what he got, so he opens up his status panel to check everything while he's still inside the carriage. Desperate survival is definitely going to help him last longer in fights. Deadly Charm, on the other hand, could be a massive problem, especially knowing how the female villains in this world operate. There was a battle maniac warrior who only cared about fighting, a completely unhinged sword saint who attacks anyone who steps within 3 feet of her, a ruthless mercenary who will kill anybody for the right price, and a genius mage whose senses are insanely sensitive to everything. To him, dealing with people like that is just a huge pain. At the end of the day, all he really cares about is getting skills that will keep him alive. Even as a veteran player, he'd never seen an effect like this before. The doctor notices he's spacing out and asks if he wants another psychological evaluation. After the long ride, he finally makes it to his destination. Even though he survived that whole mess, he gets off the carriage with a sour look on his face. While the academy staff gives welcome speeches, he just stands there listening in silence. Honestly, he had a lot of heavy stuff weighing on his mind that day. That doctor back in the carriage mentioned he graduated from this academy and came from a minor noble family. He warned him that the monster stone falling into his train car was no accident. He also told the kid it'd be best to stay far away from anyone tied to the Tristan dukedom. The problem is, checking his status window, he knows the first trust event with Elmer is happening real soon. In an academy crawling with rumors and lies, it's no surprise she's one of the main candidates to be the final boss. While lost in thought, he suddenly hears someone calling his name. One of the instructors gets annoyed and asks if he's daydreaming. They were supposed to pair up for sparring, but everyone already picked a partner, leaving him all alone. Because of that, his opponent gets assigned automatically, and with all the best fighters already taken, he gets stuck with the worst possible matchup. And sure enough, the person left over to be his partner is a giant girl. That's Alia, the ultimate prodigy of this world. In the future, she's destined to become the savior of humanity. She's the actual protagonist of the game, and right now, she's helping him up. Seeing who he has to fight, he knows he's in serious trouble. A woman wearing glasses watches the commotion caused by the student and thinks she's completely lost her mind. She thinks the entrance duels have already started and can't figure out how the girl managed to be so late. She's talking about the girl who just walked in covered in dirt with her hair completely mess. The official has a lot of questions, starting with where the girl has been all this time. Elmer calmly tells her she was just taking care of a few small things. The woman gets it, but she still needs to clear a few things up with her first. With her back turned, the girl mentions that some punks tried to eliminate her by dropping a massive boulder on the academy train. She says they tried to cover it up as an accident, but of course, she tracked down and captured every single one of them. After hearing all that, the woman tells her to go get changed. Since the entrance duels are already underway, she's about to mention that if she hurries, she can still catch the last duel until she notices the newcomer is in it. When she mentions the main character's name, she realizes the girl already knows him. However, the girl tells her that to her. That kid is a complete nobody. She still remembers the ridiculous face he was making back when they were in the train car together. Even so, she smirks a little just thinking about how weird he is. Meanwhile, back in the arena, our main character is shaking like a leaf. He knows his stats are trash, and if he takes a single hit from this woman, it's game over. Then he realizes this could actually work in his favor. If he's in extreme danger, he might unlock his locked power. He remembers his status window saying his stats increase in times of need. Scaling with the level of danger, he's sure the villains he has to face are somewhere in that crowd. So if he doesn't get finished off right now, at least he'll grab their attention. With his information advantage and the stat boost, he might actually survive this. Meanwhile, the ridiculously strong woman in front of him actually looks like she pities him. Before she crushes him, she wants him to be honest and answer one question. She wants him to admit that he's way too weak. She says that if he confesses, she might even give up on giving him a beating. Then she asks if he's the guy who was hanging out with Tristan. She says she hates that girl and her entire family, calling them all absolute monsters. Our MC knows she's bold for saying that, but deep down, she isn't wrong. According to the story, she has plenty of reasons to hate that family, so he gets that it's family drama. The problem is he was just in the same room as the girl, but the woman says his face reminds her of that disgusting brat, so she suggests they just pretend to fight instead. That sounds super tempting, but if he doesn't level up fast over the next 2 days, his life is in danger anyway. so he tells her to bring it on. To provoke her, he says he actually likes that girl a lot. The woman grips her sword tightly and asks if he's being serious. Of course, he's lying, but if he wants her coming at him full force, he has to commit to the act. As soon as he shouts that he loves the girl as much as she hates her, the system triggers deadly charm. Now the woman says she won't feel bad at all about destroying him. Furious, she charges straight at him with everything she's got. Even though he manages to dodge, the force of the strike is so massive that it snaps his sword in half. Pure panic hits his face as he realizes that if his plan fails, he's going to die right here. The short-haired girl is impressed that such a weak loser actually managed to dodge her attack, so she decides to stop holding back and crush him once and for all. Seeing that she's about to end the fight, the system detects a dangerous presence and flags his life as being in imminent danger. Right then, the desperate survival skill activates at rank EX1. He just closes his eyes and throws a direct punch right to her face, instantly dazing her. Seeing the sheer impact of the hit, he realizes that X rank is actually the absolute highest tier in the entire game. It's such a devastating power that everyone around him instantly starts looking at him in a completely different light, and that single punch is more than enough to knock the girl out cold on the ground. The impossible just happened, and the guy everyone thought was a weakling saves his own skin at the absolute last second. As soon as the hit lands, even he can't believe how much raw power just came out of his fist. Everyone is completely shocked, staring at the guy who had an F rank in everything and just won the duel. With this insane feat, he grabs the attention of the entire Elfon Academy. On his very first day of class, he casually takes down the main character of this world. In a meeting with the Academy higher-ups, their first suspicion is that he cheated on his proficiency exam. Everyone's perception of him has completely flipped, and the directors decide to continue the meeting to debate his case. One of the evaluators points out that before this duel, the guy had zero combat skills. Even so, that strike was totally real, and the headmistress demands an explanation for what's actually going on. The scarred man claims that no one in the academy would walk away in one piece after taking that punch, including himself, since his chances of beating the promising warrior, Aaliyah, were zero. He must have used some kind of illegal tool or substance. However, the scarred man also brings up a few other possibilities during the discussion. He says the other option is that the guy might actually be an absurd, talented monster. That idea doesn't sit well with everyone and is tough to swallow, especially for the Margrave, who sponsors Aaliyah. Still, ignoring a student with this much potential would be a massive loss for the academy. In the end, if he's a fraud, it'll show soon enough, so they decide to just wait and see. This year is packed with interesting new students, and some are so unique they require special treatment. If this guy really is all that, he's definitely going to play a major role in the future. Meanwhile, terrifying rumors and pictures of our protagonists start popping up all over the academy newspapers. Obviously, he hates this sudden fame. It brings back way too many memories of his life before getting stuck in this game. Right at that moment, the system pops up a notification saying a specific person's trust level just went up. A bunch of floating windows keep appearing right in front of him, detailing every single one of his upgrades. People's feelings are shifting from curiosity to interest and trust, generating points he can spend in the system shop. The only thing he doesn't get is why the final boss, who shouldn't even know he exists, is suddenly interested in him. A skill from the famous House Tristan even shows up, a family known for demon-involved swordsmen, but that doesn't bother him at all. The weirdest part is that the girl he just dueled also pops up on the list of interested people. Gifts are only supposed to come from villainesses with positive interest, but she isn't a villainess and definitely didn't seem to like him. While he's trying to figure all this out, someone starts pounding aggressively on his room door. The person outside asks if this is the freshman's room, and the voice sounds extremely familiar to him. The girl introduces herself as Elia and demands to be let in, banging on the door non-stop. He has no idea what she wants and decides to stay dead silent to see if she'll just go away. Except she calls him out, saying she knows he's inside and telling him to answer already. She threatens to kick the door down if he doesn't speak up, making him instantly ask if she's lost her mind. Hearing him answer, she celebrates, saying she knew he was in there and demands to know why he didn't open the door sooner. She begs him to open up, promising she won't hurt him and just wants to ask a quick question, while he keeps asking what she wants. Acting super weird, she says it's just a quick chat so they can get to know each other better. Standing all alone in the empty hallway, Elia starts processing the whole situation. Even though she backed off for now, she's not happy at all with his attitude. She thinks he should have just accepted right away instead of being so picky. Thinking back on that conversation, she remembers the other girls and still feels like something super weird is going on. Not sure whether to leave or stay, it dawns on her that she doesn't even really know how to be friends with a guy. She gets so caught up in her thoughts that she bumps into someone, knocking their food right out of their hands. As she bends down to pick it up, the other person tells her to watch where she's going. The girl with light hair then asks if she's hurt. The real problem comes when she looks up and sees exactly who's standing right in front of her. Instantly, her body tells her to run away as fast as she can and never look back. Shaking with fear, she can't wrap her head around why a member of the Tristan family is standing right there. purely on instinct, her hand reaches straight for the hilt of her sword. She didn't mean to do it on purpose. It was just total self-defense instinct. She stares deep into the girl's eyes, wondering if she'd even stand a chance against her at her current level. But Elmer Tristan is actually just standing there, holding out her hand to help her up. Seeing how calm Elmer is, Alia thinks maybe she didn't even notice her defensive reaction. Turns out, the girl really just wants her dropped food back. Still shaking, she hands the food over, figuring Elmer didn't even bother reacting because she doesn't see her as a threat. Then she tells her that if she turns right down the hall, she'll reach the woods room in no time. Except Elmer immediately wants to know how she knows the exact location of a guy's room. When the short-haired girl mentions she was with him just a little while ago, Elmer is not happy to hear it. She demands to know why, and the timid girl replies that it was just a friendly chat between new students. The student council president literally makes up a rule on the spot, declaring that Elia is no longer allowed inside Dawood's room. But Elia doesn't seem to take this well at all, insisting on knowing what's really going on between the two of them. Right then, she remembers what he had said back during their fight. She imagines there really is something between them, and decides she needs to keep a very close eye on all of this from now on. The Academy's practical exam evaluates every single detail about the students, splitting everyone into groups right after the duels. Since he managed to defeat the Knight candidate, he ends up placed in the highest tier group. Everyone else seems proud of their results, but he's the only one worried, because his biggest problem is that girl. He did everything he could to get away from her yesterday, but now she's in the exact same group as him. The system alerts him that her curiosity has jumped to level 5. Showing that her interest is only growing by the day. He remembers some snacks and a letter he received last night and starts thinking someone might actually be stalking him. For now, he decides to just focus on the exam and hope everything goes smoothly, since this is part of the main storyline. He also notices that Elnori's confidence has gone up significantly. Now she's standing in front of everyone, announcing that she'll be supervising their group's exam. Things are getting weird, because Elnori's event was supposed to play out differently, but now she's the one leading the group. It'd be strange if nothing went off the rails during the test, but it seems like this shift has something to do with a recent meeting. She announces that everyone will head to the testing area first, where she'll answer any questions and clear up doubts. Everyone can tell just how much effort went into preparing for this exam. Even though they're surprised by the setup, everyone keeps following her down the path. As they walk, Elia remembers that she had promised to answer questions as soon as they arrived. Right then, our MC looks ahead and sees the room entrance up ahead, completely sealed off. This means the event has already started, and it's actually a trap, not a test. The main mission of this event is to save that person. Looking around, he spots two girls talking. He realizes these people belong to the main character's party. Remembering the story clearly, this exact spot is where everyone meets, so everyone gathered in this room is crucial for the future of the story. He calls out loudly, telling them the central hall is the best place to regroup. He explains that there's a map there, along with equipment and rescue supplies. Getting everyone's attention, he lets them know that since they're already here, he's going to take a different path. Elia finds it super weird that he wants to head in the opposite direction of the central hall. He tells her he can't explain why right now, but promises it's important, and says he'll fill her in later. He knows everything will be fine because he didn't technically lie. After all, nothing is more important than saving his own skin. Walking away alone, he wonders if his plan actually worked. Beating Elia probably gave his words some weight, so now he just needs to hide out until the event ends. Since the mercenaries are after El Noor, nobody's gonna pay attention to him, so he just needs to lay low for a bit. As he walks, someone calls out to him, and when he turns around, something feels totally off. A guy with a creepy face says he's there to fix the power, and asks him to lead the way. The guy claims he can't see well in the dark, and right then, the system pops up a danger warning. Meanwhile, he walks through the dark, wet hallway. One of the girls asks Elia if the guy will really be okay wandering off on his own. Elia replies that he must have had a plan in mind when he left. Either way, it feels like something bad is about to happen to all of them first. Two guys mention that the front group already defeated that demonic woman. They mock how ridiculously easy it was to fool the MC. While chatting about it, they watch the MC walking ahead with his back turned to them. The mercenary says the equipment room is just up ahead. This guy loves to brag about being such a professional mercenary that he can tell anyone's level just by looking at how they walk. He decides the MC is just a total amateur, and figures he'll toy with him a bit before finishing him off. With a creepy look on his face, he takes off his mask, and says he might give the kid a reward. The MC turns around completely unfazed, acting like he doesn't even know who the guy is. Looking at the guy's creepy face, he says he'd be in real trouble if his enemy were actually strong. Mocking him, he says he's relieved, making fun of the guy's walk and even his sinus issues. He readies himself to see if this desperate fight for his life will earn him a better rank this time, or maybe a lower grade, since his enemy isn't really a big deal. Still, the mercenary thinks he's just a weakling and decides to go all out on him. The MC just grips his staff, wondering what kind of power will shoot out of his weapon this time. Meanwhile, a violent battle is breaking out somewhere else, and a man gets slammed against the wall. Right after that, he gets hit with a barrage of arrows, and it doesn't stop there. Several mercenaries start floating, engulfed in flames. Turns out the whole group decided to turn back and help the MC, who had gone off by himself. After capturing almost all of them, the red-haired guy thinks it's weird how weak these enemies were. The girl gives the order for ice sheets to freeze all those idiots solid. Meanwhile, not too far away, Elmer needs to put a few people in their place. She has to show these lowlifes that they messed with the wrong person. Because of that, she's completely crushing these useless guys without a shred of mercy. It's pretty clear none of them have any real talent. After beating them to a pulp, she starts interrogating them to find out who sent them. She has to squeeze a few of them pretty hard to get them to talk. Now that their forces are combined, Elmer wants to know if the mastermind is inside that building or somewhere nearby. Realizing it won't be easy to get info out of them, she decides to play tough. She asks if the mercenary is currently at that location. After putting the pressure on, one of the goons leaks that the boss came along with them. Alia wants to know why she's going to such extreme lengths. The answer is simple. Someone tried to take her out, and the Crescent Moon is a mercenary who can shapeshift into whoever he eliminates. She leaves them with a question, asking who would be the easiest target for an experienced assassin. She realizes Dahlwood used himself as bait to draw the strongest enemy away. Hearing that, they ask what kind of relationship those two actually have. She replies that there's nothing going on between them, as far as she knows. Meanwhile, our main character is having a field day with the guy who tried to kill him. The enemy has no idea why his powers aren't working. He's getting tossed around like a total amateur. Meanwhile, MC is basically taking a casual stroll between every hit. The seasoned mercenary sent to eliminate the threat is getting absolutely wrecked. Just then, a system notification pops up, letting him know the sword technique was successfully executed. Once the guy notices he's using Tristan's sword technique, it becomes crystal clear he picked a fight with the wrong guy. The mercenary mentions he realized the kid used himself as bait, and the system panel shows he's actually impressed by the clever plan. Thanks to the game system, no one can use weapons inside save points, which is exactly why MC lured him there. MC says he doesn't plan on killing him, he just needs him to tell the others to stay away from Lady Tristan. He doesn't know who put out the bounty on her head, but he figures they'll keep coming after her. The mercenary stares at him and asks what he'll do if they go after her again. With a completely deadpan face, Dahlwood tells him to go ahead and try because he'll be right there to protect her next time too. The mercenary asks if that girl is really that important to him. He answers that she definitely is, more than he could ever imagine. When he says that, he has no idea she's standing right behind him, and hearing those words causes her favorability to shoot through the roof. As soon as he turns around, he sees a flood of system windows popping up in front of him. The odds of the villain favoring him spike insanely high, and the notification just keeps spamming his screen. Back at the Academy office, things are looking pretty messy. No matter how hard she tries to organize everything, the place is still a total disaster. She doesn't get why the Chancellor got so mad, but tracking down the organization on short notice is tough with this much backlog. She mentions that based on the mercenaries' route and timing, it's almost guaranteed there's a spy inside. She tells the girl that while political attacks are common, this is already the second attempt. They must be seriously determined, because this incident feels completely different from the rest. Everyone who was with her got officially recognized, and they all took down the enemies without a single casualty. The only problem is Dahlwood. He's the only one with no official record of achievement, which makes zero sense. It almost feels like he's intentionally trying to hide from the Academy staff. After hearing all of this, Elmer starts having second thoughts about him. Still, there's a seed of doubt, and deep down, she doesn't want to completely believe it. The person talking to her, however, is getting annoyed and doesn't want to see her defending this stranger. After catching the object tossed her way, the girl asks what she means by that. The issue is that she seems spaced out all day and can't even focus. She admits it's because she started taking an interest in someone. When the woman asks if that someone is Dahlwood, both of them fall silent. She finds it hard to believe the girl could actually fall for some country bumpkin, and if the Archduke finds out about this, things are gonna turn ugly. Elmer doesn't appreciate her tone when she implies that she was won over. At the end of the day, he's actually treating her well, whereas normally, she wouldn't trust anyone. The girl says she just needs to put him to the test, so it's fine if she keeps a very close eye on him. Meanwhile, the main character looks over the certificate he received, which says the Academy unfortunately can't assign his class right now. Currently, the academic team is working on a project to show results, and he can expect good news down the road. By the book, he shouldn't end up in a special class like Aaliyah's group. He doesn't get why they're singling him out like this, but a new quest pops up right away. It's about the freshman orientation ceremony, where his class will be assigned from archer, warrior, mage, or priest. Class specializations depend on your main focus, like how Aaliyah uses a sword, so her build will be focused on strength. The catch is, he has to deal with an incident that's going to go down during the ceremony. On top of that, Elmer's character's stats suddenly changed, and Aaliyah's stats suddenly changed out of nowhere too. The final boss, the heroine, and the main quest events are all triggering at the same time, meaning something massive is about to happen. To make matters worse, a new skill pops up that catches him completely off guard. He can now copy one of the final boss's skills, but he feels like it's a waste to use it this early. She's going to get tons of broken skills later on, so burning the skill duplicator right now makes no sense. The thing is, he knows something that's about to completely change the game, and that's why he's standing right in front of the old equipment warehouse. To avoid drawing attention, he decides to throw on a mask and hide his identity. After getting past the security measures, he finally reaches the treasure vault. Using a boost of agility, he manages to leap right inside, all thanks to an agility potion, the shadow mask, and a pair of hiking boots. After burning through that much energy, he needs to eat a stamina recovery cookie. Now it's time to start digging through all this junk. He finds everything else, but the most important item is still missing. It's the divinity peak, and sensor holding 1,000 years of ancient power. When he finally finds what he needs, he can't help but celebrate. Still, there's something that's keeping him seriously worried. Things get even worse when he looks up and sees that massive stack of boxes about to collapse. If all of it comes crashing down, it's gonna draw way too much attention. This is the worst possible time for things to go wrong, especially since everything was going so smoothly. When the boxes finally fall, a gorgeous black-haired girl lands right in his lap. This girl is Yuria, the main boss of Chapter 2. Everyone knows her as the Cursed Sword Goddess. The item he just grabbed actually belongs to her, which is why she's always hanging around here. It doesn't take long before the system flashes a high danger alert. He has to stay sharp because this threat is lethal, triggering his X-rank desperate survival skill. Deep down, he even apologizes for waking her up, but she doesn't give a damn about his apology and goes straight on the attack. At first, this was just supposed to be a simple duel against Aaliyah, but suddenly, it turns into a total life-or-death fight. The sharp tip of her chain keeps missing him by a hair every single time. Looking at the look in her eyes, it's obvious she thinks his defeat is right around the corner. He tries to explain that it's all a misunderstanding, and he wasn't trying anything weird while she was asleep. He knows he has to convince her no matter what, because even with X-rank strength, his whole body is in crazy pain. But as far as she's concerned, she's not gonna make things easy for him. At the end of the day, messing with someone this dangerous was a huge mistake. Luckily, he knows exactly what to do to avoid getting hit. Meanwhile, she keeps hurling that strange weapon straight at him. After defending himself as best he can, all he can do now is hope for the best. When the pointed blade stops right in front of his face, he just closes his eyes. All he needs to do is keep a distance of 3.5 steps, because any enemy closer than that gets instantly taken down without a chance to react. Except she can't actually approach an opponent on her own, thanks to the effects of Yuria's curse. Since he can't run away either, he asks her to hold on for a second. Looking around, he realizes this place is her private area, completely isolated from everyone else. Even the professors barely come around here, which means he's totally alone with her. Remembering that people usually get hungry at times like this, he gets an idea and offers her a cookie. She refuses to fall for cheap tricks and sees right through his attempt to bribe her with food. But lucky for him, the plan actually works in the end. She decides to treat the whole thing as a minor mistake once she finds out who he is. Sure, he came here to steal her artifact, but now he has to make up some random story on the spot. So he claims that someone asked him to bring her food and look after her. He decides to leave it at that, since this relationship could come in handy later, especially because they weren't even supposed to meet this early in the story. With his back turned to leave, he tells her not to worry, letting her know her sister is doing just fine in the Holy Empire. He adds that the Emperor won't even care about either of them for a long time, so he tells her to lay low a bit longer and promises he'll be back. Yuria actually fled the Holy Empire and hid at the Academy specifically to get away from there, so talking to her about her only surviving relative is totally fine. The next day, the students go on a full tour of the academy. The blonde girl explains that everyone needs to pick their major and minor subjects during the ceremony. They can choose from 5 departments: cavalry, sorcery, engineering, subjugation, and the clergy. Dawood knows this tutorial event is meant to give them more background on this new world. The problem is people won't stop asking questions, and it feels like the event is going to last forever. Now everyone is asking about the famous Void Zone, the restricted area where punished students are sent. Dawood knows full well that place is all that's left from the ancient war between heaven and hell. That's where God's servants and his blessed warriors sealed away the demons. Even after hundreds of years, the battle between holy energy and the power of death is still raging there. This zone is crucial because the demons can't be allowed to break free under any circumstances. That's why the Sacred Empire, the Tribal Alliance and the Empire formed the Golden Triangle to keep a close eye on it. That includes keeping tight control over the Elephant Academy and other places like it. A student asks if they can get a look at the place, and the teacher says they're allowed near the Seraph Barrier. Our main guy's plan for now is simple: grab a bite, get out and head back. But he has one more thing to do first. Angels can move mountains and dry up oceans, and the Seraphs, who are even stronger, are the ones who built that barrier. That barrier is the only reason the Academy can even operate so close to such a dangerous spot. Playing it smart, he asks if he can eat away from the crowd, claiming he gets uncomfortable in big groups. The teacher lets him go, but warns him not to wander too far or he'll end up in trouble. The other students get annoyed seeing a nobody act all special just because he got a little attention. Using a unicorn horn, a phoenix feather, and a hummingbird fan, his preparations are finally complete. Now all he has to do is blow on it lightly and use the fan just right. This item acts like a portable offering to the gods. Judging by what he's seeing, the ritual is working flawlessly. He knows he's breaking Academy rules, but the results are way too incredible to stop now. This will give him access to beings an ordinary person couldn't even dream of reaching. With that quick trick done, he finally gains access to the celestial realms. He watches these divine beings from afar, and he can even hear what they're saying. He sees the higher-ups chewing out a recruit, telling him leveling the ground doesn't mean digging up everything in sight. Eventually, one of the beings notices a human staring right at them. The angel notices the human has been staring their way for a while, but figures he'll just leave him be as long as he stays quiet. Then the boss notices the guy stopped working and demands to know what his problem is. While our protagonist watches the whole thing unfold, anyone slacking off gets chewed out hard. Right after that, you can hear the sirens blaring as the brick delivery truck rolls in. Everyone there needs to know what they're doing to unload a truck packed with sacred mud bricks. The real nightmare is that the pile of bricks seems endless. In a place like this, everything turns into an argument, even taking a second to eat a biscuit. Orders keep flying back and forth, and our guy just stays off to the side, taking it all in. Turns out the next deliveries are delayed because the truck broke down on the way over. Seeing all this chaos, he realizes there must be a pretty serious reason angels don't just come down to Earth whenever they feel like it. To put it simply, angels basically operate like an army. They have a strict chain of command, and this game follows very clear rules. You can't even encounter angels until Chapter 2, and reaching the higher-ranking ones takes way longer. But he knew that what they really wanted was actually pretty simple. So he set the table with the best food he had and gave thanks for the meal. While he was enjoying this amazing feast, the angels just kept watching him. One of them even wanted to ask for a bite, but didn't have a high enough rank to ask permission and come down. Seeing this, our main guy talks to him and says they should eat something before getting back to work. Then, he sends the food over to them. Most of the angels can't even believe he actually sent food, so they decide to take a quick break. Since the rules of that realm are different from the physical world, a single portion of his food is more than enough for all of them. One of the angels is so happy and satisfied that he decides to bless the human. The angel wants to know what he desires, but he needs a reason, so he promises to do his best to live up to expectations. It turned out great that he didn't even need to negotiate, even though he had already prepared dozens of offers. The angel thinks the MC is standing there wondering why someone so grand would help a nobody like him. The MC knows that just by looking, that angel can see someone's true nature, maybe purely through intuition. That gift is way stronger than he imagined, but how he uses it is his own problem. He says that's why he ended up caught by a cruel, yet somehow loving monster. Another angel comments that any normal human would be consumed by fear right away. He says a great man is being born, so there's no reason to worry. After everything, he can barely believe the angel actually said that about a cruel, yet loving monster, not to mention that whole great man thing. Before leaving for good, the angel tells him to believe in himself since he already has the approval of an angel. Doid thinks he's only doing all this because he doesn't want to die, but since it's advice from an angel, he really needs to think it over carefully. A system notification pops up, showing that the vessel holds the special power of divine beings from another world. That angel gave him a lot of useful blessings, and the construction stat is tied to his health. The blessings are great, but that's also a problem, since he still doesn't have any major traits to show for it. Someone asks him if spaced out is his specialty skill, and reminds him that they need to form pairs. They ask if he even knows what a partner is, and if so, where his partner is. Full of confidence, he replies that she'll be arriving very soon. A bit flustered, he says he's not lying and that the place is about to get packed. His partner isn't just popular. Knowing the story, he knows she won't take long to show up. Sure enough, Ellie arrives right on cue, asking if this is the monster research department. Originally, he didn't want to get involved with the game's female lead, but he ended up changing his mind, especially after hearing the advice from that older angel. So he puts his plan into action and asks if what she said earlier about getting to know each other better is still on the table. At first, she just freezes, completely confused by what this guy's talking about. Then she remembers him saying how much he liked El Nori. She even recalls how hard it was just to get his attention, not to mention the rumors that he was dating that strange girl, and the fact that he stood up for her against those who wished her harm. She even remembers the expression El Nori had at that exact moment, and now she sees him gently reaching his hand out toward her. She figures nothing he tried before worked out, so his new strategy is to make everyone jealous. Now, things are about to get a whole lot more interesting at this fake dungeon academy. In the dark, young Aaliyah asks if he's really sure they should be doing this. He tells her to have a little faith, reminding her he hasn't forgotten the time she tried to hit him. He makes it clear that if she wants to be friends after that, she needs to do exactly what he says. Right after that, a terrifying creature appears right in front of them. The monster steps out of the shadows, ready to sink its teeth into them. Things get worse when two more of those creepy creatures drop down from the ceiling. The guy warns her that their weak spot is the neck and tells her to target the body and ignore the wings. The short-haired girl takes his advice and immediately rushes into action. Annoyed, she tells him to stop barking orders and actually help her fight. He warns her that two daggers are flying in from her left and right, and her only option is to deflect them. She listens to the warning and parries the daggers away at the very last second. Those weapons were coated in paralyzing poison, and the next threat is coming from her right. Now she needs to dodge 3 projectiles, and he tells her to hold still until he counts to 3. Right after, he warns her that another attack is coming straight from behind. Everything happens just as he predicted, and 2 strange monsters start attacking non-stop. The whole situation pisses her off, since he clearly knows everything that's coming but isn't lifting a finger to help. He actually wants to help, but he can't. He's just an extra with F-rank stats. Since this is just a training match, his desperate survival skill won't trigger at all. He tries to figure out how to activate it, especially since everything here requires perfect execution. Suddenly, he spots the girl sprinting straight toward him with her sword out, looking completely desperate. He thinks he pushed her too far, and now she's coming to take his head off. In reality, Elia is just running over to protect him from a monster sneaking up behind him. It's clear she'll tear apart anything that gets too close to her master. He's blown away by the insane speed she bursts out with in that moment. Her performance is so impressive that they end up shattering the previous record. She's totally confused. After all, she basically fought alone and still broke the test record. It's hard to believe a 2-person challenge was beaten by just one girl, but he brushes it off and says they just got lucky. Just to push her buttons, he tells her the next area is gonna be way harder, but their duo isn't splitting up. Without them knowing, Elia is being watched by a mage through a magical artifact. It's Percy, the director of the Academy's spell creation department. Turns out several high-ranking examiners are keeping a close eye on the student's performance. A man with a scar across his face feels like he hit the jackpot watching the pair in action. When asked if he has his eyes on the girl, he replies that his real focus is actually the boy. Percy remarks that the kid is just a con artist, freeloading off his partner's strength. However, the scarred man insists the girl never would have broken the record on her own. To anyone else, the girl looks like the powerhouse, but the guy was the true key to victory. His positioning, perfectly timed call-outs, and how he made sure not to be a burden prove it. Every move he made showed perfect judgment, cold and calculated for every single threat. Confident in what he saw, he challenges Percy to make a bet on the two of them. Suddenly, the examiner's voices echo down to the students, revealing instructor Conrad Valtador. He announces that he and the director of spell creation just made a bet to see if the duo can break the next record. He explains that the record was set back when they were freshmen, and if the team breaks it, they win the right to ask Percy for a favor. He lets them know he won't force anyone if the pressure is too much, especially since their current score is already pretty impressive. Our MC steps up right away, promising they can easily manage at least that much. The mage gets furious hearing his response, but the instructor says he'd rather bet on the kids pulling it off. The girl with glasses knows her friend just came here to blow off steam, but she can tell she's starting to take things too far. Tossing a bottle into the air, Elnor mentions there's something she wishes she could remember. Truth is, rumors say a demon lives inside the Tristan family bloodline, which explains their unreal talent, but the dark side of that fame involves sudden fits of madness, violent outbursts, and losing complete sanity. That's why no matter how much they accomplish, every member of the Tristan family ends up dying miserably. This time, she seems to want to say something important to her friend, but suddenly loses her nerve. She plays it safe, acting like she doesn't want to bother anyone else. The girl with glasses then mentions that 2 freshmen paired up, specifically Dahlwood and the warrior candidate. It's the exact same girl who fought him in that duel. That means they teamed up, probably because the dungeon requires a 2-person party. Elnor finds the coincidence weird and takes a moment to process the news. She takes a deep breath, but realizes staying calm right now is impossible. She demands her friend take her to where those two are immediately. Gripping her sword, she asks what he's planning to do. She admits she knows how skilled he is, but wants to understand if risking everything to break the record is really worth it. She finds his confidence impressive and figures he must have a good reason for acting like this. The MC knows it's easy to hit the monster's weak spots, since these artificial creatures always follow the exact same pattern. Since he can't just tell her that, he simply says he's taking the risk because he trusts her power. Conrado gets hyped and lets them know he can crank up the final stage's difficulty, which gives extra points for a harder challenge. Percy gets annoyed hearing he wants max difficulty, knowing he's relying entirely on his partner's skill. She scolds them, but the duo stands firm in their decision, making Conrado tempted to accept it. All that's left for him to do is try to calm down the warrior candidate. He asks Aaliyah to keep trusting him, reminding her that he's kept them both safe so far. Meanwhile, the mage sips her tea, unable to believe Conrado's attitude. She remembers he pulled this exact same stunt with other freshmen in the past, but the green-haired instructor believes that even if things get dangerous, the duo will find a way. He's pretty confident, but knows if things get too crazy, he can just step in and save them. Conrado activates the hardest test mode, demanding the freshmen prove their true worth. Seeing that the MC won't change his mind, Aaliyah decides to back his decision. Now that the choice is made, there's no turning back. Complaining won't help. All they can do now is push forward. Conrado jacks up the difficulty so high that the MC's system triggers an imminent danger warning. The moment a lethal threat is detected, an insane power immediately unlocks. With that, he's more than ready to take on whatever threat comes next. That's huge for him, considering he needs to destroy giant monsters made entirely of pure energy. The second the MC launches his first attack, Conrado gets hyped. Even his partner gets excited watching him spring into action. Seeing the absurd power they're up against, the monsters start whimpering. He fights with so much power and confidence, he doesn't even look like the weak, useless kid from before. Now people are starting to suspect he was just playing weak all along to lay low. Watching him, Conrado admits he doesn't blame Percy, since he'd think the exact same thing if he hadn't seen the change himself. He mentions that as time goes on, the monsters get stronger and the kid keeps growing right along with them, which means everyone is leveling up at the exact same time. As he says this, the two students go all out and wipe out the monsters. The warrior candidate puts on a show, leaving a trail of fallen monsters wherever she goes. It doesn't even matter how big the monsters are or what it takes to beat them anymore. The two are working together as a perfect team now. Our guy gets ready to use the Tristan family sword technique. The second he unleashes the La Volpe technique, the monster doesn't stand a chance. Both of them did an incredible job showing off insane synergy. In the end, they actually managed to break the all-time record, but looks like there's one last danger left, so he tells Dawood to duck. Something flashes brightly out in the dark. Right after, the loud sound of something being destroyed echoes through the area. Suddenly, Conrado steps in, so hyped up he just couldn't stay on the sidelines. He tells his student that he just set a record that won't be broken anytime soon. He praises the warrior candidate, too. With that, he announces he won the bet he made with the mage. His student's reward is renting an item from the visionary vault, plus a favor from the head of wizardry. The duo is thrilled, since that's not something just any student can pull off. The girl asks him why he's always so calm. No matter what happens, he always acts like he knew everything ahead of time. He thinks to himself that he acts that way because he literally does know what's gonna happen. Now, she asks for a fist bump, thinking that's just what friends do. RMC thinks she's joking, but realizes she's dead serious. Having no choice, he gives her the awkward fist bump and gains even more points with her. Her curiosity stat rises to level 5, super close to reaching the trust level. Super satisfied, she walks away looking back and tells her new friend she'll see him tomorrow. As he's processing this, someone nearby comments that they can't tell if the girl is friendly or just plain weird. He agrees immediately, but gets shocked when he realizes it's the student council president standing right in front of him. After watching them chat, Elna wants to know if our MC is interested in the freshman. He notices his survival instinct didn't kick in, which means she isn't planning to hurt him. He doesn't even get why she's acting so jealous, since he's not committed to her or anything. But when she says she'll only ask one more time, his danger alarm goes off instantly. He calls her president and claims that even while training with the other girl, she was the only one on his mind. As soon as he says it, he prays she falls for his made-up story. Just like he thought, she freezes up, telling him he shouldn't blurt out stuff like that out of nowhere. Even he can't believe he had the nerve to drop a line like that so suddenly. Looks like she bought it hook, line, and sinker, actually believing he spent all this time thinking about her. But then she crosses her arms and demands to know why she was on his mind so much. He starts stammering, completely unable to form a real sentence, and she immediately realizes this might be one of those complicated friendships. He completely freezes when she tells him he really needs to think about who his priorities are. Then she tells him to relax, saying she only came over to hand something off to him. She hands him a letter, and he has no clue if it's a love confession or a challenge, especially since none of this ever happened in the original story. She tells him to only open the envelope when he's completely alone. That request makes him even more suspicious about what could possibly be written inside. When he opens the letter, he sees she wants him as her date to the freshman party, and being her partner isn't even the real issue here. The real problem is that turning her down comes with a massive penalty, because her affection points will absolutely plummet. While he's trying to process all of this, someone knocks on his door. He goes to answer it and finds his training partner standing right there. To his surprise, she's also holding a little letter in her hand. He can barely believe this other girl had the exact same idea. She gives him a wink, tells him it's a secret, and says she made up her mind during their training session. Then she starts bouncing around nervously, telling him to just hurry up and read the letter. Now he's officially screwed, because literally everyone in this world is completely insane. With shaking hands, he opens the paper, already guessing another invitation is coming his way. And yep, that's exactly what it is. An invite to be her partner at the party. Things are looking ugly, because now he has to choose between the final boss and the female lead. This doesn't make any sense at all, since none of this ever happened in the original storyline. Complaining won't change anything though, because both letters are sitting right in front of him. He just desperately needs a way out, because if he picks Elmer, he'll turn into a villain in the female lead's eyes. On the flip side, if he chooses Elia, the final boss is gonna hate his guts, so his only option is to bluff his way through and try to recruit both of them at the exact same time. All of this is happening because both girls are still in that phase where they just have a slight interest in him. People are already starting to gather at the venue as the party gets underway. The hall is quickly filling up, getting totally packed with people. Elia complains about all the noise, saying the place feels more like a slaughterhouse. At the same time, she thanks him for agreeing to come with her. He tries to play it cool and forces himself to stay calm. And just like that, the two of them start slowly walking through the middle of the hall. He had to burn through all his saved points, but the plan actually worked. He managed to get a clone so he could pull off a double date. The catch is that the clone has multiple personalities, so he has to pick one that actually acts like him. He's terrified that someone might spot both of them in the same room and get suspicious. Because of that, he decides to turn on the serious night setting so the clone stays dead silent the whole time. The roar coming from that creature makes him feel totally embarrassed. The carriage slowly inches forward while guards tell the crowd to make way. It's just one monster out there, but it looks like they wanted to run a few tests on it before it managed to escape. He knows this marks the start of the main event, so now he needs to move fast if he wants to make it out alive. He's praying this double date actually works, and he even bought some special pheromones so he wouldn't just come across as some average guy. The stage is set. The clone will take the female lead, and he'll stick with the final boss. Right away, she notices a strange scent on him. He plays it off like it's nothing, saying it's probably just the flowers nearby. The thing is, she knows for a fact that smell is coming straight from him, and it's driving her crazy. Seeing her reaction is the moment he realizes how powerful those pheromones actually are. The system confirms the effect worked on the target while she tries her absolute best to act like she's not into him. All flustered, Elmer asks how she never noticed how cute he was before. She even tells him he's way more amazing than she ever imagined. Trying to play it cool, she suggests they head over to the festival to check out the food stalls. He figures his clone and Elia should be meeting up right about now, so he needs to make sure they don't run into each other. While he's trying to figure out his next move, she seems completely lost in her own world. He thinks to himself that as long as things stay like this, nothing bad should happen, since both he and his clone need to keep the girls distracted. Hitting up the food stalls sounds like a great plan. With that, the two of them head over to a wild boar skewer stand. A bit shyly, she asks if he looked up what she liked beforehand, or if coming here was just a total coincidence. He feels like he needs to keep some distance from her, but at the same time, he wants to stay close. Most importantly, he has to make sure Elia stays far away from both of them. After getting some food, she decides she wants to shop for accessories. Seeing this as an opportunity, he decides to pick the absolute worst gift possible to try and lower her interest in him. The problem is, even after buying her a terrible present, she ends up loving it anyway. After that, he brings up their future class tracks at the academy. When he mentions he's choosing theology, she tells him to rethink it, saying it'd be a total waste if he didn't join the night division. He tells her there's something very specific he needs to learn in the theology track. Curious, she asks what could have possibly caught his attention there. He explains that to protect what matters most to him, he needs to master a specific skill. He knows holy skills are perfect for his survival and will be crucial down the line. He has to prepare for the upcoming secret society incident, an event where the chapter boss is weirdly weak. Elmer asks if this is the reason he's been trying so hard to get close to her. She asks if it's because of her family's curse, the one that eventually drives every member insane. Mental training won't fix it, but he already knows the perfect solution. He knows the fix is the angel's blessing, a miracle where two archangels grant their blessings to the same person. He knows pulling that off is nearly impossible, which is why the Tristan family is still so feared. Elnori asks what his real intentions are, and without missing a beat, he tells her that the person he wants to protect is her. He says that failing to protect her would be the exact same as dying to him. Smugly, she says she knew it all along, though she adds that he really is a weird guy. He realizes he accidentally spilled the whole truth to her, but figures that should be enough for now. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, several cages filled with wild monsters are on display. The beasts inside look completely enraged. As they walk together, Elia thinks the guy might be mad at her since he's being so quiet. She knows she needs to get closer to him to gather info on their rival family. The issue is she has no idea how to deal with guys like him. In fact, she doesn't know how to deal with guys at all, and to make matters worse, she ends up in a really creepy spot, completely surrounded by caged, ferocious monsters. She points out that all these monsters are being used for academy experiments, showing just how irresponsible the professors here really are. She notices some of them are massive and absurdly strong, making the whole thing even worse. A few aren't even locked up, but her curiosity gets the better of her, and she walks right up to one. Except the beast is way wilder than she expected. Suddenly, the alarm blares, and the creature starts growling and baring its teeth. Panicking, she completely freezes in place, paralyzed with fear. Realizing the danger, the clone tackles her out of the way to save her. The monster's roar is so loud, it can be heard all the way back where the main character is with the other girl. In fact, everyone in the hall senses the dangerous aura. Now, the girl is in an awkward spot, with the guy who saved her lying right on top of her. When she asks why he did that, he just responds that it's his job. She's totally confused by this, since he usually talks a lot, and now he's acting weird. She tries to figure out what's going on, but there's no time. More monsters are breaking out of their cages. In the middle of the chaos, she calls out to him as wild beasts pour out, each one terrifying than the last. With her savior knocked out, she has to step up alone to protect them both. Having no other choice, she searches the floor and manages to improvise a weapon to defend herself. She's incredibly grateful he saved her, and realizes she needs to do her part to make sure they both survive. While he stays passed out on the ground, she stands face to face with the monsters. The wood rushes off, saying he'll handle the situation, and tells his companion to go find one of the priests. Completely confused, she tells him to wait and explain what's going on. He just looks back with a serious gaze and says, they have to protect the students. Meanwhile, down in the basement, young Alia is visibly exhausted. A moment later, the clone regenerates and asks if she took down all those loose monsters by herself. Exhausted, she just thanks him for waking up, her curiosity and interest in him growing even more. She mentions that one of the larger beasts escaped, and he realizes that bear roar from earlier must have been it. Clearly frustrated, she says the monster is probably on the first floor and they need to stop it now, but she's already drained. At this point, the main scenario is his priority. If he fails, he'll face a massive penalty. He has to prevent a failure no matter what. Someone shouts for everyone to hold on until the professors and knights arrive. Someone else tries to raise a barrier, urging them to make sure it doesn't break, but that beast will do whatever it takes to break in and devour the students. Neither the dean nor Professor Conrad are around, and even if they were, they wouldn't be able to use the angel's blessing. Elmer gets furious while trying to convince the priest, but he simply refuses, saying there's nothing he can do. The priest says the knights will be here in a few minutes, so they just need to wait. He makes it clear that he was always against using these monsters for experiments in the first place. While she tries in vain to convince him, the MC runs past and announces he'll handle it himself. Seeing the nerve of this new student, the priest thinks he should turn back and stop acting so arrogant. The aspiring priest finds it absurd that a student is trying to take action without even knowing what a blessing is. However, the player had received a divine ultimatum, which is now combined with the priest's rosary. The available skills are now skepticism and sacred study. Suddenly, a high-danger threat is detected with an imminent risk of death. Right in front of him is the reason his X-rank desperate survival skill kicked in. The guy running the barrier asks what he's doing, and Dawood tells him he's just buying time. Thanks to asceticism, all his extra attribute points get dumped straight into Constitution. That gives him just enough juice to activate the holy barrier. As he holds up the shield, the bear tries everything to break through, but it can't land a single hit. He pours every last drop of his strength into keeping that barrier standing. Everyone's stunned when they realize he's using the angel's blessing. The monster keeps thrashing around, but he holds the line firmly. The guy in the back loses his mind, shouting that even high priests struggle to pull off a technique like that. Elmer just stares in complete shock at what Dawood is pulling off. The barrier holds strong as the massive monster keeps slamming against it. You can tell the priest is actually rooting against him, desperate to see the monster shatter that barrier. The girl gets pissed, asking if this guy is really supposed to be a professor when he won't even lift a finger to help. Out of nowhere, Elia steps in and cold clocks the useless professor. She excuses herself, saying she took so long because she was knocked out in the basement. Then she looks ahead, sees the blessing in action, and tries to process if that's actually Dawood. Elia points out he's not even a war priest and that it takes at least 10 years of training to wield that kind of power. Everyone watches in disbelief, blown away by the insane amount of effort he's putting in. Elnor remembers their conversation when he said he needed to learn something from the theology department. His words about dying if he didn't protect her keep looping in her head. Seeing what he's doing right now, it really seems like he was telling the truth about having no ulterior motive. Elia explains that even if it was a stored blessing, there's a limit to how much power he can control. In the end, that student council spot must have meant everything to him. He's putting his life on the line just to save the Tristan family and Lady Elnor. Anyone watching can see just how hard he's pushing himself. He's fighting a monster he knows he has zero chance of beating. Elia knows there can't be any other reason for him to go this far. Elnor felt it from the start too, but since she'd always been on her own, trusting people was hard. She was sick and tired of getting her hopes up only to end up disappointed. She was done fooling herself into thinking anyone would ever sacrifice themselves for her until something finally turns her whole world upside down. Finding courage she didn't know she had, she grips her sword and charges straight at the monster, while Dawood pushes himself to the absolute limit to hold off the beast, giving it everything he's got without caring about the fallout. Elia sees Elnor do something she's never done before. Everyone is in total shock because the woman who always fought alone is now trying to save someone else. The white-haired, red-eyed girl feels like she's finally found something truly worth fighting for. She throws herself at the monster, determined to put an end to it once and for all. In this moment, it doesn't matter how strong the monster is. She's taking it down no matter what, and the giant beast feels the full weight of her strike instantly. Even he's stunned by the sheer power she's using to suppress the monster. She manages to take down a massive, dangerous monster with just a single strike. So this is the true power of the Tristan family's daughter. Watching her fight, he instantly realizes that this is the authentic Tristan swordsmanship. But right after that, the beast gets back up and goes after her again. They seem evenly matched at first, until she decides to pour even more power into her attacks. Once that monster becomes her target, it really has no way out. The beast holds on for a moment, but she's already getting into position to finish it off. Her attacks are brutal, but there's one move in particular that's absolutely terrifying. The second she spots an opening, she unleashes it without a shred of mercy. She executes her famous ultimate move, Tramontana, something so destructive that almost no one has ever witnessed it up close. Watching from a distance, Dawood realizes the original technique is on a completely different level compared to the version he copied. In the original story, Elmer never gets dragged into this mess, and system windows start popping up, warning him about the shifting narrative. He figures out that the professors who wanted to experiment on live monsters were all tied to the Tristan family. If Elmer stepped in, she'd basically be taking the blame for her family, and she has zero interest in playing political games. While he tries to process all this, Elia starts evacuating the other students from the area. She shouts at everyone to get out while they still can, telling them to hurry up and fall back. Thinking the fight is finally over, Elmer begins to sheath her sword. Exhausted, she looks over at the protagonist and tells him it's all over, but things take a turn real quick, and he yells out to warn her. Another giant beast bursts through the flames, and he screams at her to watch out right behind her. Hearing his voice, her eyes widen in shock. By the time she spins around, he's already right there, jumping in to cover her back once again. Once more, he activates his angelic shield to protect her, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, a bizarre-looking monster starts crawling out from the middle of the fire. When she turns and sees what just happened, she realizes things spiraled out of control in the blink of an eye. She watches the boy who risked everything to shield her take a heavy hit and collapse on the spot. The impact sends his vision spinning into darkness, and by the time he comes to, he's in a completely different place. As he opens his eyes, someone asks if he's awake, but his only concern is whether the monsters were killed and if Elmer is safe. The person assures him that the monsters are taken care of and that the Tristan girl is doing just fine. Flipping through a book, she adds that all the other students escaped without a single scratch. She asks if he's surprised to see her, explaining that she had to seize the chance since they couldn't talk after the duels. He knows exactly who she is, Adelante Swansong, the immortal who's lived for hundreds of years. He assumes she's here because he used the angelic blessings, but she tells him she's actually here to deliver bad news and even worse news. With a gentle smile, she asks which news he wants to hear first, and he chooses to get the bad news out of the way. She starts off by telling him he's about to draw more attention than any student ever has in this place. That's the last thing he wanted, but he braces himself to hear the rest. Her expression turns serious as she asks him just how much he really knows about all this. She finds his reaction pretty fascinating. Even when demons are mentioned, he doesn't seem bothered at all. He points out that he shouldn't reveal too much considering he has no idea what she's actually planning. He adds that he's the only one here without a assigned class, meaning he can't even attend regular lessons. She nods, telling him she completely understands why he's so frustrated with the whole situation. She makes it clear that she had to do some damage control after everything that recently went down. She explains that the current leadership has completely lost control of society. Because of that, they're desperate for talented people, willing to go to the ends of the earth to find them. Tired of just listening, he cuts her off and drops a truth bomb, showing he already knows about the Tribal Alliance's coup. He brings up the recent changes in the Sacred Empire, surprising her by asking if that's the real reason behind all of this. She agrees he's right and says the Golden Triangle is now their biggest headache. Even though they seem like friendly neighbors on the surface, there's a ruthless secret battle going on to recruit talent. Most students don't even care. but the whole continent is already feeling the fallout. This golden triangle refers to the three major superpowers: the Elephant Academy, the Tribal Alliance, and the Sacred Empire. That's when he realizes every single mess he's gotten into has caught the attention of one of these powers. Yet strangely enough, despite all that attention, none of them have actually taken action. It's almost like someone is forcibly gagging anyone from leaking any information. Adelante thinks he's pretty sharp for putting it all together, especially when he asks if drawing this much attention is dangerous. She warns him that the world could literally end and things could spiral out of control at any second. And if that happens, an all-out war will break out between the three superpowers. She then pulls out an object and asks if he recognizes the crest on it. She reveals that's why she brought up demons earlier, and he instantly recognizes the Purifier's seal. Just by reading his face, she can tell he knows way more than she thought. He knows all too well that the Purifiers are a secret demon-worshipping cult operating from the shadows. He asks why she's spilling so many top-secret details, especially when she knows she could be targeted a third time. Since she can't explain everything out loud, she hands him an item, which he immediately recognizes as an interdimensional key. This is an insanely rare and terrifying item capable of tearing open portals to other worlds. Seeing his reaction, she knows he got the message, telling him to take good care of the gift and deliver results. She adds that if he proves his worth, she'll give him even better rewards down the line. She then snaps her fingers and makes it dead clear that everything they discuss stays strictly off the record. She also drops that she already knows about his connections to the warrior candidate and Lady Tristan. Honestly, though, he wasn't even in the mood to answer those kinds of questions. She says she hopes things keep going smoothly between them because if he doesn't pull his weight, things could go downhill fast. With a smile, she casually adds that if he fails, the world really might end. He finds it super creepy how she can talk about apocalyptic stakes with such a calm face. In her mind, the grand plan can only succeed through those three. Shortly after, he takes his leave. He walks off lost in thought about the end of the world, clutching his new item. He decides to worry about that later. After all, he never expected to score an item this good, something that should be impossible for a player to get. On his way out, he runs straight into Conrado. The professor tells him he was actually looking for him. The Night Dean explains that even if he doesn't have a set class yet, he can't just keep skipping classes like this. He hands him a paper with a temporary assignment. Starting tomorrow, he's going to have to attend classes with a specific group, and the moment he glances at the roster, he realizes he's actually going to have to lock in this time. He ends up in the same group as the class president, Elmer, along with the vice president, Elia. The moment he sees who his group mates are, memories of the end of the world come flooding back. Suddenly, he realizes he's going to be taking classes alongside those upperclassmen. While the professor tries to explain the lesson, Elnori interrupts, asking why he's diving so deep into theory. She argues that this kind of information is only useful in an actual battle, but Elia disagrees, saying the professor is completely right. As the two argue over who's right, our main guy is caught in the middle, praying it stays a harmless debate. Things quickly heat up, though, turning into a full-blown shouting match where both look ready to throw hands. An actual fight between the president and vice president seems inevitable. Despite their different views, both of them look ready to settle the argument with their fists. That's when he decides to speak up, just asking them to quiet down so he can actually focus on the class. Instead, he walks right into the crossfire, and both of them demand that he pick a side. The situation gets tricky fast, especially since they keep drawing the entire class's attention straight to him. To make matters worse, they keep this up for the whole lesson, causing the other students to start giving him dirty looks. At least he manages to build up his trust level with Lady Tristan even further. The system shows his proficiency with the Tristan family sword technique has reached 58%. His basic deep breathing technique also gets a solid level boost. These two skills complement each other, and considering the physical side effects, they form the best possible combination. And the only person capable of using this combination properly is Elmer. That's exactly why she becomes the final boss, thanks to this monstrous close combat ability. On top of that, his reward for the warrior candidate is ready to claim. The rule of evil is still active on the rankings, exerting its influence over the good people tied to him. He keeps trying to figure out what all of this really means. In their next class, they're heading into the forest for a practical survival training session. The class is led by the Night Dean Conrad, who explains how everything is going to work. They need to enter the forest and bring back anything they think could be useful. He adds that he'll be evaluating the students alongside the council president. Naturally, Elmer isn't thrilled about that idea at all. The warrior candidate thinks the instructions are way too vague, but the teacher just tells her that life is all about hands-on experience. Our guy knows the old saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer, but right now he has no clue how to balance all of this. He's still lost in thought when Alia walks up and asks if they can team up. Trying to be polite, he suggests she stick with her own friends, but she just smiles and says he's her friend too. In reality, he just wants to stay as far away from her as possible, so she stays put with the main cast. She puts on a cute face trying to play sweet, saying it wouldn't hurt for them to go together, but he's really not in the mood and cuts her down directly, saying they aren't even that close. She stands there completely shocked, never expecting to hear words like that from him. It takes a moment for the reality to sink in, and she looks genuinely hurt after everything they've been through together. Once she finally accepts his answer, her expression shifts and she says it's a shame, but he must know what he's doing. She turns her back on him and walks away, leaving him behind. One of the girls in Alia's group really doesn't like how he's treating her friend. She glares at him, and right then, our MC realizes he went a bit too far and upset her. That's when another guy steps in to confront him about it. Dawood just wants to mind his own business, but people keep bothering him. Now this guy wants to know what his deal really is with the warrior candidate. This is Tylan Armand, the strongest guy in class after Ilya, who's actually gonna become a mid-tier boss later on. Annoyed, he says someone as strong as Alia shouldn't be wasting her time talking to a nobody like Dawood. Our MC spots a status update since making this guy mad fulfilled one of the system's conditions. Tylan asks if that duel was just a total fake, but the MC realizes he can actually use this future boss to his advantage. Looking him dead in the eye without showing a shred of fear, the MC tells him the duel was 100% real. He adds that Tylan is only saying that because he can't accept seeing someone he admires get crushed so easily, making the gap between them crystal clear. As the two argue, Alia just glances back from a distance to watch what's happening. With a mocking tone, the MC tells him it must really suck to watch his ultimate goal get surpassed all at once. The difference in their power is becoming more obvious by the second. That's when the blonde guy decides to propose a bet. They're gonna bet on who can get the highest score on the task. For our MC, this offer plays right into his hands. Meanwhile, everything feels super boring for the girl who's stuck standing near that annoying teacher watching everyone get ready. To make matters worse, the teacher wants to talk to her about the help he asked for to evaluate the students. He wants to know if she's taking the job as a joke and demands to know why she gave full marks to a student who hasn't submitted anything yet. Her only response is that the guy actually deserves the grade she gave him. She even adds that if he's not happy with her evaluation, he should let her observe that student up close to be sure. When she tries to walk away, the teacher puts his hand on her shoulder and stops her. Conrado claims you can judge them just fine from a distance, but it's obvious she completely disagrees. Watching the scene while holding a cross, the young girl feels her friend is acting completely different today. Her eyes are locked on the area where the warrior candidate is fighting. Someone who was always sweet and kind to everyone is now acting extremely impatient. Even the monsters are suffering the consequences just for getting in her way. A red-haired guy notices that the strongest monsters are all gathering in one spot. The other guys agree, saying that's the rarer area, and if they grab some gems, they can still save their grades. But right after that, they hear a cry for help. There really is something off with the warrior candidate because her aura, which used to be calm, now feels super heavy. Her classmate notices her negative emotions are showing, and no matter how much she tries to hide it, she's furious. So she calmly approaches her and asks how she's been holding up lately, trying to look totally fine. Elia replies that nothing major happened. Her friend pushes further, offering to help if something's bothering her, but Elia turns her back and says she doesn't know what she's talking about. Even so, the girl stays worried, sensing the storm of mixed feelings bottled up inside her friend. After everything, the short-haired girl sits under a tree looking pretty down. She didn't realize it was that obvious, and she knows there's no lying to Trisha, since it's just the two of them there. Her friend asks her straight up if Dawood is still keeping his distance from her. Elia can't figure out why he's acting like this, especially since they went through so much together, and it makes no sense for him to build a wall between them now. When her friend mentions that he might not have meant it that way, she tries to figure out what she means. Her friend points out that he's just a guy from a minor barony while she's a warrior candidate, making her realize he's actually just trying to protect her in his own way. Trisha accomplishes her goal, as her friend no longer feels that negative energy. Meanwhile, our main character keeps running to win the bet he made with Talon. He knows the guy is at his absolute breaking point, especially after being publicly humiliated forever, and now the guy feels completely disgraced by him. As the negative influence takes hold of the guy, the MC gets his reward, triggering the rule of evil and receiving a command. With a dead serious look, the man vows to turn that useless trash into dust, and honestly, his spear grazes the target a few times. Talon seems completely obsessed with hitting the guy in front of him no matter what. He tells the MC to stop acting childish, fight like a man, and stop running, wondering why he's insisting on getting the last hit when he took the worst beating. Suddenly, the MC asks him to stop, making it seem like he's hit his limit. Hearing the plea, the guy acts like he has no other choice. He suggests that in that case, they should just split the rewards 50-50. But that break was just a trick for the MC to catch his breath and taunt his opponent even more. The chase starts right back up, and the blonde guy rushes after his target, determined to crush him for good. Pouring all his strength and murder attempt into the strike, he prepares his strongest attack to throw the spear. After building up momentum and channeling his power, he launches the spear straight at the MC. But what happens next leaves the blonde guy wide-eyed. And he's not the only one shocked. Dawood is completely stunned too. Both of them freeze as the warrior candidate suddenly appears and stops the deadly spear midair. She immediately warns the blonde guy to stay far away from her friend if he knows what's good for him. She makes it crystal clear that he needs to keep his hands off her friend. He realizes this must be the first time they've met since the monsters escaped. To make sure he gets the message, she takes a step toward him. She presses her blade against his throat and tells him there won't be a next time. And yeah, this really is the first time they've seen each other since she wiped the floor with him. Meanwhile, the MC is just wondering where the heck this girl came from. The blonde guy still tries to play it cool, saying it's great to see her again. She ignores the fake small talk and demands to know why he's chasing Dawood, asking if he's really trying to mess with her friend. She's not just giving a verbal warning, so she sweeps his legs out from under him. With the guy flat on the ground, she steps up the intimidation. She points her sword at him and demands he apologize for messing with the wrong person. The blonde guy can't wrap his head around why she keeps standing up for someone who isn't even on her level. She tells him that who she hangs out with is none of his damn business. Then she asks if he wants to get knocked out in one hit again, just like last time. The moment she says that, he remembers getting crushed by that bastard. Left with no other option, he drops to his knees right then and there, realizing he could have gotten seriously hurt. He apologizes to the guy. As she sheathes her sword, he promises to never go near him again without permission. Watching all this unfold, the MC notes that, as expected, the warrior candidate definitely knows how to teach someone a lesson. Now he's wondering if she even considers them friends anymore. He figures they're still friends in a way, but what really matters right now is getting a good grade on this assignment. Before long, someone else comes calling for him again. Trisha stops right in front of him, asking if they've met before, and decides to introduce herself. She really doesn't need to, because he already knows she's friends with the warrior candidate, and always takes forever to get to the point. Both here and in the original story, it seems like she's just talking in circles to deliver news that's definitely going to be annoying. Since he still has a choice, he simply turns around and walks away. From Trisha's perspective, this guy is super weird, especially since he made her friend fight Talon when she'd normally just talk things out. Now it's clear that he's the real problem, and things only get worse when he sees what's waiting just ahead. His eyes go wide, completely unable to believe what he's looking at. Instructor Conrad is furious after having to fight the student council president, who's now sulking on the ground. The instructor explains that she insisted on going into the forest, so he told her she'd have to get through him first, and she lost. He tells the kid he's doing better than before, but he knows the guy is just playing dumb. Trying to stay calm, the kid says he's only here for the points, while the president keeps her eyes shut. Still, he has to show what he managed to collect, and when he opens his pouch, he reveals way more than anyone else got, making Percy desperately want it all. Remembering their wish agreement, he asks why he can't just get a few extra points from her, but just as he thinks about going straight to the magic instructor, he gets interrupted by that girl yet again. At least this time, she talks to the professor, who gives everyone permission to leave and tells her to take care of Elmer. With that, the girl asks Dawood to look after Elia, but warns him not to be too nice, since Elia always loses her cool whenever she talks about him. He appreciates the heads up, even though it felt way more like a threat. Having no other choice, he just tells her he'll do his best. She thinks he better try hard if he wants to get out of there in one piece, all while casting her healing spell. As she heals Elmer, she thinks about her friend, knowing she could easily lose control and completely cross the line. Meanwhile, he heads to the spell creation department to hunt for more points. Percy is surprised to hear that he already wants to use his single wish. He says he needs something from the goddess of spell creation herself, and she immediately sees right through his flirting. As he talks, he notices several other students nearby looking awkward and annoyed just by him being there. To defeat the upcoming Purifier boss, he needs to be ready for anything, and she agrees to do her best since the Chancellor requested it. She warns him that she'll grant it as long as it's not used for the wrong reasons, then asks what he wants. Right then, he notices he received a reward from Elia's gift, but he keeps a somber look on his face. That gift can be traded for special skills in the point shop, and the list of options has already been updated. Since Tylan and Armand have the negative seal, he can use Rule of Evil once, but the effect isn't really much better than other items. He knows he's still way too weak by the Purifier's standards, which is why he decides to make his request now. He looks straight at her and says he needs a cannon powerful enough to blow up the entire academy. And the second she hears that, she concludes he's completely lost his mind. He repeats his request with an even serious look as if it's an absolute necessity. She just stares at him in complete shock. Unable to process what she's hearing, she tells him she can make it. The real problem is where he plans on using a thing like that. He shows her the paper, guaranteeing she has to fulfill normal requests, saying something this simple should be child's play for the Dean of Spellcraft. Percy gets annoyed, pointing out that asking her to build a weapon is anything but normal. Still, a promise is a promise, so he assures her he won't hurt anyone and will only use it on a single target. That makes her even more nervous, but she's sure he must have his reasons. After all, he really helped out with the monster situation and now he's making a cannon for himself. As he thanks her, she still can't believe the Chancellor actually let him have a harem. She even claims it's gonna help save the world. Suddenly, she gets worked up and starts talking to herself right in front of him without even realizing it. He tells her to calm down, reminding her that she promised to grant his wish and needs to keep a cool head. He also brings up the items she promised him and Elia from the Vision Vault, demanding she hand it over right away. This is great because now that he has permission for the cannon, all he needs are the crafting materials, and since he can get all those materials using the interdimensional key, everything seems to be going exactly according to plan. Things are going smoothly until a mysterious man calls out to him. The man has an intense presence and asks for the guy's name, but before he can even answer, the man says his full name for him. With a smile, he remarks on what a huge coincidence it is for them to run into each other here. He introduces himself as Galdra, manager of the Purifying House Charity Foundation. Our guy finds that hilarious, knowing full well the foundation is just a front for money laundering. In reality, he's the head of the Purifier chapter and leader of the Raging Fire, and he mentions hearing plenty of rumors about the young man. That's why he wants to give him a gold card for his bravery in holding off the monsters, something not just anyone could pull off. The Purifier adds that it's been a long time since he's seen such an extraordinary student, and he can't wait to see what his future holds. Then he invites the boy out to dinner to hang out, saying they have other things to discuss. This whole scene is straight out of the original story, except this guy was supposed to approach and harass Elia instead. The fact that he came up to him instead makes our guy realize the system now sees him as the main protagonist. Meanwhile, the man just keeps a poker face, waiting for a positive answer, still processing what's happening. Our guy just says he'll think about it. The man calmly walks away, telling him he'll be waiting at the Twilight Eyes restaurant in 3 days. This is a terrible spot to be in, because even though he said he'd think about it, the guy completely ignored him. Twilight Eyes is a fancy restaurant right next to the academy, so there's no running away from this main event. Just like before, the choice is simple, but there are a ton of risk factors involved. He's already tangled with the mercenaries hunting Miss Tristan, Elmer herself, and even the warrior candidate. On top of that, Yuria and the mid-boss are in the mix too. Still, taking everything into account, beating the Purifier isn't impossible. To make matters worse, the Chancellor's words about the end of the world keep echoing in his head. He still doesn't get why he has to play Elia's role, thinking maybe things went off script from the very start. In the end, he decides to focus on what's right in front of him and worry about the rest later. With no other choice, he knocks on the room door, realizing no one is answering and they're taking too long to open up. He has to call out to Elmer loudly to see if she's actually inside. When she realizes who's outside, she asks what he wants. Hearing her response, he tells her she doesn't even need to come out since he just wants to talk about something quick. Standing outside, he asks if she's free 3 days from now. The question catches her completely off guard, especially since she's not alone, and the girl next to her simply reminds her that she needs to return her book on time. Truth was, she hadn't even read them yet. She was just letting them collect dust because she only rented them for the cover art. While her friend kept talking, she noticed her put a finger to her lips, asking her to be quiet. Outside, the guy kept asking if she could make some time to go somewhere with him today. She asked if it would just be the two of them and where he was planning to take her. He told her he was taking her to a place called Twilight Eyes. The moment her friend heard that name, she whispered from inside the room that it was a famous top-tier date spot. So she asked him why he wanted her to go with him, and he paused, saying he'd give her a good reason soon. He told her he could only explain once they were together alone, so she stood there behind the door while he waited patiently on the other side. When Elia was a kid, she used to love playing in a big field of flowers. That day, though, she was pouting because her brother had messed with her again. Even though he kept saying he was sorry and wouldn't pick on her anymore, she was still super upset. She asked him what kind of sick joke it was to shove his own sister down a hill. All she wanted was for him to leave her alone. He claimed he was just playing around, saying he wanted her to grow up strong so she wouldn't get beat up by anyone. His mean prank ended with an apology and a bag full of cookies. He mentioned that, thanks to the Baron, he might get promoted straight to apprentice knight. When she asked what would happen after that, he told her he'd be heading off to the battlefield. He said he wanted to experience new things and see the world from a different perspective. To her, it sounded like a total fantasy. He was just an idiot who spent all his time annoying his little sister. How could he ever become a guardian? She asked if he'd actually make it back alive if he went to war, and he joked that he might just run out of luck. Angry, she told him she hoped he ran out of luck and never came back so she could finally have some peace without him teasing her all the time. He knew her harsh words were just a little girl throwing a tantrum because she was upset, so he told her that if he became a guardian, he'd always protect her. But all of that was just a dream, the same dream she always had before she was woken up by someone calling her name. Stepping out looking half asleep, she asked him what was going on, realizing he'd woken her up. Our MC apologized, saying he was still getting used to things in the city. He handed her a snack and asked her to go easy on him, explaining he was just a country bumpkin. He also apologized for saying they weren't friends earlier. He said he brought her some cookies because he tried them, thought they were delicious, and remembered he had a friend who might like them too. She told him that constantly apologizing wasn't cool between friends. Either way, she turned her back on him and told him to go back to sleep, but he couldn't let this chance slip away. Calling her his friend, he told her he really needed her help and asked her to come somewhere with him. He insisted it was urgent, but she just looked at him with an annoyed face, thinking he had completely lost his mind this time. Meanwhile, the student council president was busy taking care of her responsibilities. This time, they were doing everything they could regarding the teaching materials. She was also going to double-check the budget fees for every club. Her friend brought up that the only thing left to deal with was the transfer students. Apparently, they were getting one from the Tribal Alliance, who was almost certainly part of the faction that fell during the coup. The council president knew she was the daughter of one of the tribal chiefs, meaning her family was basically in exile by now. Many of her advisors were coming along too, but in reality, her entire family was just seeking refuge at the academy. The girl with glasses asked if Elmer knew who Lilu Garuda was, assuming she might have heard of him since he was so famous. However, the council president didn't seem interested in that conversation at all. She takes a look at the calendar and realizes things aren't looking good at all. Next semester, a real saint from the Holy Empire is gonna show up. What really gets her is that this saint is coming all by herself. It seems like the chancellor pulled some strings since a few envoys were brought up. Pretty soon, the academy is gonna have both a saint and the daughter of a tribal chief under the same roof. The academy is definitely plotting something. This pisses Elmer off because she has no idea what's behind all these sudden moves. With every passing day, her rivals just keep getting stronger. She looks totally lost for a second, then suddenly mutters that she forgot something. The girl with glasses doesn't get why she's worrying so much, considering she's only been here for 2 days. She's just in a terrible mood today. Meanwhile, high up in an observatory, a couple is taking in the view. RMC talks about how great the view is from up here and points out how pretty the sky looks, but his companion isn't feeling it at all, asking if any of this is actually necessary. He tells her he has no choice and that this is the only way to pull it off, asking her to just bear with him a little longer. Using the catapult he grabbed from the vision armory, they can reach the target. All he has to do is push the button. Freaking out, the girl wants to know what he's planning to do in the middle of the night. Even though this is a high-level restricted area, he's got a secret pass card given to him by the chancellor, so as long as they launch into the air, they'll land in the right spot. Despite how awkward his companion is acting, he tells Alia to pay close attention and keep her eyes wide open. He tells her to stay focused because he already locked onto the exact location of the interdimensional portal. Right then, a massive burst of light swallows up the entire area around them. Smirking, he flashes the card and tells her everything's under control. He says they're going in right now and tells her not to worry because he's right by her side. Suddenly, she remembers her brother asking if she was gonna keep crying and where all that fear was coming from. RMC tells her to keep her eyes on him since things might get a little dangerous, but he promises she doesn't need to worry because he'll always be there for her. And right after that, the two of them completely vanish into thin air. The second they land, RMC warns her that they don't have much time. He makes it clear that they're currently in the interdimensional realm. She shouldn't touch a single thing because it could be dangerous. As he starts hopping from one floating rock to another, the terrified girl asks him what on earth he's doing. He tells her not to worry about the unstable gravity and says they need to climb higher up. When she asks what he's looking for, he tells her she'll find out soon enough and to just keep jumping across the rocks. She's scared out of her mind, thinking that if she falls, it's game over for her. Trying her best to trust him, she closes her eyes and leaps, except things go completely wrong and she actually starts falling. It's a horrible feeling being upside down in midair and her brain immediately jumps to the worst case scenario. She feels like she's losing her mind, suddenly remembering when she was little and had to leave everything behind, escaping through the back door. Back then, she asked her brother if he was really gonna leave their parents behind and with a dead serious look, he said yes, promising he'd take care of them later. He also warned her to hide immediately if she ever saw a descendant of the apocalypse, but she was way too worried about what might happen to him. Tears in her eyes, she confessed she wasn't stupid. She knew their parents were never coming back. She wanted to show him she wasn't a little kid anymore and knew exactly what was going on. After all, they only had each other now. That was why they had to run away together. Hearing that broke his heart, but there was just no way that could happen. He made it clear that if they stayed together, both of them would be in danger because besides being her brother, he was also a guardian. So she didn't need to worry about any of that. She just had to focus on getting as far away as possible. He promised that as soon as she was safe, they'd meet up at the hill where he always trained. He begged her to calm down and just run, promising he'd be right behind her. Then, right in the middle of pouring her heart out, someone suddenly grabbed her arm. The second she realized the MC was holding her, she demanded to know what happened to all that extreme gravity he was talking about. He told her she was falling really slowly and to stay calm, saying she'd get used to it soon. He told her to look up because their target was right in front of them. It was the ghost of the Gregory Pavilion, clearly visible as they floated together on the rock. All he wanted was for her to help him out by holding a few items. Super suspicious, she asked what the deal was and what she was supposed to do with all that stuff. He explained they'd need to make a run for it soon, which is why they were going to use that bag. With a smile, he asked if she was following everything he was saying. She found the whole thing super weird, especially since all she could see was the sky. Suddenly, things got creepy, like something was about to swallow them whole. And that's exactly what it felt like, as if they were inside the mouth of a massive monster. Right then, he warned her that it was almost time for them to leave. Honestly, that hideous giant monster looked just like a massive fish. He yelled at her to collect everything the creature dropped, and out of nowhere, she found herself collecting even the foul breath coming out of that massive beast. The wind picked up, getting so strong it felt like they'd be blown away any second. Meanwhile, the giant monster opened its mouth wide, preparing to swallow them both in one bite. Then, in the blink of an eye, they were back on the ground. It worked perfectly, right on schedule with the card's effect duration. He grabbed her hand and asked if she was all right and if she was hurt anywhere. Furious, she instantly yanked her hand away, completely covered in monster slime. She told him to shut up, complaining that this whole reckless plan, and even their escape, was staged by him from the start. He admitted it was all calculated because he really wanted to sneakily snatch the Gregory ghost's loot. Feeling totally used, she demanded to know why he hadn't told her they were going into an interdimensional realm. Refusing to hear any excuses, she slammed the bag onto the ground, shouting that she was done filling it up. She couldn't believe she had been woken up just to collect gross monster slime. Even though she gave him the cold shoulder, her affection level and interest in him jumped drastically, which was pretty weird. He found it super strange that her interest shot up so fast out of nowhere. To her, though, the reason was obvious. She had just floated pressed up against him under a romantic pink sky. After wrapping everything up, he went looking for Atalanta, finding her covered in sweat as she tied her hair up. She glanced at the bag and asked if that was what she thought it was, though obviously he couldn't read her mind. Even so, he explained that you could call it a psychic entity. Hearing that, she asks if he really went into the interdimensional realm. Holding the card, he replies that he already knew she gave him that gift for this exact reason. To be completely honest, she says she didn't expect him to use the card so soon, and takes the chance to ask what happened to his hair. He smiles and explains that Percy hit him with a lightning bolt. He tells her they came to hand over the ectoplasm they got from the interdimensional realm. He mentions that seeing a spiritual entity must have freaked Percy out, since even though she's a witch, she's a total coward. First, he asks if that amount is enough, and then reminds her of her promise for another gift if she was satisfied. She says the magic tower would pay a fortune for it, but he makes it clear he doesn't want money. He wants a favor, since psychic entities are the consciousness of legendary figures from the past. He asks her to infuse his item with one. If she does, the consciousness inside the item will gradually awaken and get stronger and stronger. She wants to know the reason for all this, pointing out that he already took down a mercenary unarmed and beat a warrior candidate in a single hit. She notes that he's also fought monsters recently, and asks why he's so obsessed with getting stronger right now. He thinks to himself that he needs it because the main story's bosses are all demon level, and at the end of the day, the whole story revolves around the two girls beside him. But he knows there's no way he can explain that to her, so he decides to change the subject, straight up asking why she likes him so much. He knows she has tons of questions in her head, like how he found the location of the interdimensional realm. Sure, he knows things a normal student shouldn't know, especially a freshman. Lately, he feels like the entire academy has started revolving around him, even if that might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, he genuinely believes that his studies and daily routine are being influenced by Atalanta. It's like she's encouraging him to do whatever he wants, so he wants to understand what she actually expects from him in the future. Still, Atalanta is the chancellor, and she makes it clear she doesn't appreciate the tone he's using with her. Even so, she sees that the kid knows exactly what he's doing, which explains why she gives him such special treatment. She playfully suggests that maybe it's just because she finds him cute. He thinks that's ridiculous, since he hasn't done anything cute to deserve that. Either way, she agrees to help infuse the item with a psychic entity, while he shifts his focus to the main quest of this chapter, the Purifier. He needs to finish this quest before anything else, since his companion has already arrived at the spot. He asks if the president has been waiting long, putting on some lip gloss. She replies that she just got there. Then she sarcastically adds that she's only been waiting for him for 6 hours. He finds it weird, because somehow she looks completely different from the day of freshman orientation. She explains that it's her first time coming to a place like this, so she thought it was better to find a spot nearby to get ready. Right after, she asks if this is his first time leaving the academy grounds. The moment he hears the question, he instantly looks away. She's so comfortable around him that she casually grabs his hand and starts pulling him along. She tells him they need to hurry because the line is huge. and there really are tons of people there. He never imagined Twilight's color would be this packed. There are so many people ahead of them that he doubts they'll ever get inside. That's when he spots Tylan and wonders what the heck that guy is doing there. Tylan gets completely flustered as soon as he sees the protagonist, explaining that he's working a part-time job at the venue. Suddenly, he looks to the side and notices the student council president is right there with him. Just like anyone else would, he freaks out and asks why on earth the two of them are together. When they ask what's going on between them, RMC almost explains it's not a date, but catches himself before he says too much. She turns to the staff member and asks if she can use her authority as student council president to head inside. Suddenly, the MC notices the guy is wearing a strange necklace and decides to ask him about it. The man says, yeah, he got it from the Eureka Foundation, that place controlled by the Martianess. So the MC asks him not to wear it today and to make sure the rest of the staff takes theirs off too. Now that he's raised both Elmer and Elia's affection, the main story is starting to shift. He needs to change Marquis Riverback's perspective because there's zero chance the guy is just gonna eat and leave quietly. And the story really does take a turn in a completely unexpected direction. The purifier catches his attention, but at least he doesn't have to worry about an immediate counterattack right off the bat. The man tells Elmer he needs to borrow the student for a second because they need to talk. He whispers to her that he's going to take the boy to a private VIP room. She hears him promise it'll only take a moment. With a smile, he tells the student he seems pretty close to the daughter of the Tristan family. Sipping an insanely fancy drink, the man begins to speak. He jumps straight to the point, asking if the kid knows why he was called here. The boy doesn't play around and says he's probably planning some atrocity, like reviving a demon or something along those lines. Since security is weaker during the full moon festival, he's planning to unleash a total massacre. After releasing monsters everywhere, he'll use mercenaries to handle the knights. All of this just to awaken the demons sleeping within the Tristan bloodline, not to mention the seduction attempts and monster attacks they're setting up. The kid makes it clear he already warned the Chancellor about these plans and asks the guy what he has to say for himself. Now it makes total sense why the Prophet took such a liking to him. He looks harmless, but he's way sharper and more cunning than he seems. He's definitely no ordinary kid. After laying it all out, the boy just stays quiet and lets the man talk. The purifier finds it all impressive, but reminds him that his subordinates have already captured the girl, something the boy definitely didn't predict. What he doesn't realize, though, is that the girl is far more of a monster than he thinks. She's not just a pretty face, she's the student council president. Right before everything goes down, they tell her she needs to come with some security guards. It's honestly ridiculous that they think she'd actually buy that story. They claim she has to come with them because demon worshippers are about to attack. They already know she has a history of wild, insane outbursts. One of them even has the nerve to put a hand on her shoulder and cite imperial law. She warns them that she's trying her absolute best not to do something stupid. Then one of them actually has the audacity to say she needs to be taken alive. Absolutely furious, she grabs the guy's head with pure brute force. Next thing you know, she's showing him how to wipe down the floor, tables, and everything else using his face. That brutal beatdown instantly gets the attention of the other mercenaries sent to grab her, but since she heard them say to take her alive, she isn't holding back for a second. She hears them shouting to stick to the plan, saying it's fine if they rough her up a bit, except she has no intention of just roughing them up a little. Unlike them, she doesn't need to hold back at all, and that gives her total freedom to go all out and teach them a lesson with the full force of the law. But the more she beats them down, the more she seems to unleash her inner monster. They try to defend themselves and fight back, but it's completely useless. Trying to block her is just as pointless because absolutely nothing is stopping this woman. She's gonna keep wailing on them until she's completely satisfied and gets her revenge for ruining her night. Even the guy who was acting super confident a moment ago is left speechless watching the president go to work, sword in hand. She's treating this whole beatdown like a fun little pastime. Her affection level shoots up all the way to the friendship stage while her madness meter cools down a bit. Upset, she complains that their date was completely ruined, so he owes her another outing. Right as she says that, a system notification pops up with a new quest, bringing up Gideon Latriston. He's not sure why her father is interested in him too, but for now, he just needs to clear the quest. Holding a demon essence, the self-proclaimed purifier grumbles that he didn't expect to use it so soon. RMC has no clue where that thing even came from. He warns his partner that they can't let him swallow that stone under any circumstances, but the guy opens his mouth, swallows it down, and claims he's receiving God's grace. What was a normal scene just a second ago suddenly turns into pure horror. The explosion is massive, and he barely manages to crawl out of the rubble. Now he has to deal with all the destruction caused by that guy. The mutated freak mutters that he didn't want to use the stone before eliminating the prophet. After swallowing the demon stone, he turns into a complete monstrosity. When a demonoid consumes essence, they temporarily gain the full power of a demon. He's literally the Chapter 1 demonoid, proving once again that this world is actively trying to kill RMC. His new mission is to take down the purifier, and while doing that, he has to keep civilian casualties to an absolute minimum. With a screeching voice, the monster yells that the time for purification has come, except the monster isn't even their biggest problem. The cannibals and cultists Elmer just took down are coming right back to life. Out of nowhere, someone pulls off a weird move called Professor Dawood's lethal piercing thrust. Giving an attack such a ridiculously flashy name is definitely a choice. Right after, he hears the kid ask what he thought of the technique he just pulled off. He tells the boy that even if he'd used the necklace, he still would have ended up like this. With that, Talon asks if the Marquis is behind this whole mess. The kid gets all hyped up and wants to know what his master is gonna do next. He says he has to handle things. He needs to protect the citizens and stop the Marquis, so he tells Talon to run as fast as he can. Meanwhile, the president asks the kid if he has any guess where the Marquis is hiding. He explains that the Marquis and the cultists share the same goal, spreading chaos and despair. They even have a name for their holy land, calling the demon realm Pandemonium, and that's exactly where the Marquis is heading, ready to damage the barrier if he can't destroy it completely. Just then, the demon creature starts gearing up to attack. It gathers an orb of dark energy in its palm. It's small, but it packs enough power to cause absolute destruction. While the guy is standing there, full of himself, and thinking he's about to cause massive destruction, he's interrupted by an annoying voice telling him to shut up. The purifier isn't thrilled at all to realize he was tracked down so easily. Our main guy tells him he's way too predictable, now that he's taken on the power of an evil demon, so of course he'd come straight to the place where evil is sealed away. The monster says this saves him the trouble of hunting them down later, and remembers he still needs to capture the Tristan daughter. While that disgusting creature keeps running his mouth, the MC holds on to the girl. He tells her that no matter what happens, both of them need to make it out of this alive. She's still getting used to him placing so much trust in her, but she feels obligated to live up to it. That's the honor of the Tristan family, and she'll never let down someone who trusts her this much. The monster notices she's ready to fight, finding it strange that she'd jump right into the clash so quickly. But she doesn't have time for small talk and cuts straight to the point, just the way she likes it. She charges head first at him and begins her assault. While she fights, the MC runs along the ground, drawing attention to buy her some space. But the purifier warns him not to try running away. As soon as he says that, he hurls a blast of dark energy right at the boy. Except the boy saw it coming and dodges the entire attack. It turns out he's doing this on purpose to draw the purifier's focus and give Elnori an upper hand in the fight. Several more blasts are fired off trying to hit the boy. The purifier can't understand how a bug like him just keeps running instead of standing and fighting. He literally turns his back on the girl and keeps up the chase. He keeps shouting at them to stop running and face him head on. Elnor gets pissed off at being ignored, as if she's too weak for him to even bother with. Suddenly, the guy loses his temper and decides to widen the area of his attack. He blows both of them back with a force so massive that not even the young Tristan girl can hold her ground. It's a strange power called Dark Fang that makes it feel like your heart is about to burst. After unleashing all that power, he starts screaming. The evil energy slowly begins surging toward Dawood. The incoming attack is truly devastating. It's obvious he's going to need to use his protective shield, and that immediately catches Elnor's attention. The hit is so powerful that it shatters his divine protection instantly. Worst of all, it hits the MC dead on. The impact sends him flying, leaving him barely conscious. The demon laughs, mentioning the kid is tougher than he looked. At that moment, the girl tells him she'll buy some time, but begs him to get up fast. The purifier remarks on how persistent she is, saying the two of them make a perfect couple. Hearing that, she realizes that up until now, she's only ever been on the receiving end of his help. She remembers every single time he risked his own life to protect hers. He always goes all out to defend her, even when she isn't watching. He even awakens incredible powers just to keep her safe. Now everything is shattered on the ground, but the vitality necklace she gave him boosts his resistance. She says she'll trust in him until the very end. The purifier mocks them, saying he almost cried from emotion, and asks if they're finally done chatting. But she still has one more question for him. She wants to know if he thinks she and the guy on the ground make a good couple. The villain finds the whole thing weird, and considers it a completely pointless question. Still, he finds her attitude creepy, since she really seems intent on becoming a housewife once they leave. Elnor gets super emotional hearing all of this, and with that, she gets even more pumped up to launch an attack. She goes all out and charges straight at the monster. The girl starts beating him up with zero mercy. Her hits land dead on, and even though he tries to defend himself, it's useless because her speed is insane. She unleashes her ultimate move, and uses the Tramontana technique. The enemy barely has time to react. Her only focus is taking down this monster so she can take care of Dawood right after. Because of that, the speed of her attacks keeps ramping up even faster. The monster ends up in terrible shape, and it's all because of that pathetic student. He complains that the bug should have crawled away and died by now. He demands to know what else they're hiding. Nearby, the smaller monsters are getting wiped out. The witch on her broom and Conrado seem to have things under control. Elia is just glad they're all together, because things would be way more dangerous if they hadn't made it in time. They both know that without them here, everything would have spiraled completely out of control. Coming up all beaten to hell, he notices that Talion drops something on the ground. It hurts like crazy, but he just needs to hold on a little longer. While he's thinking about this, Elmer crashes headfirst right beside him, completely wrecked. Of course, the enemy refuses to believe she's actually the student council president. Even so, the villain lowers his guard for just a second while hesitating. That's the exact moment he gets hit, and as he strikes the demon he asks if there's any plan left. Elmer watches it happen right in front of her, barely able to process it. She has to watch that damn monster pull something disgusting right before her eyes. Luckily, right then, the deadly charm skill triggers, and he can barely read the system notifications. Everything points to Elmer finally showing her true side. You can see a hamster in the scene. He remembers the monster's words. The main character is crouching down in massive pain. The girl is wearing a really beautiful dress. Dawood turns his head to try and see better. Part of the system was disabled and his skills were stolen. He thinks that thing used Elmer's body as a vessel to manifest itself. It's way easier to win people over like this than by showing evil traits. Now the two of them are standing face to face. The higher their favorability, the stronger the effect gets. Out of nowhere, Tristan straight up tells him she loves him. Everything stops for a split second. RMC notices his wound completely vanishing. He thinks back to one of the strongest guys in the world. Having someone like that act so friendly toward him feels kind of surreal. He has no idea how this will change the future, but he needs to grab whatever advantage he can. So he pops the skill duplication ticket. The pressure is so intense it feels like his head's gonna burst and his skin is being ripped off. That entity is tied to Elmer. He needs her right now and he's gonna need her later too. Then the woman starts to move. RMC just stands there looking dumbfounded as she tells him she'll see him later. She casually mentions she'll look into his background after this. The monster screams that it's gonna wipe him out. And then, a massive explosion goes off. To make sure he's dead, the monster checks the blast zone. The ground where the hit landed is completely shattered with deep cracks. The monster wonders where the kid went, right as a shadow looms directly behind him. Sensing a presence, he spins around to see what it is. With glowing red eyes, RMC looks absolutely terrifying. A massive surge of power gathers high up in the sky, and right after that, another giant explosion hits. As the dust starts to clear, it reveals who actually dropped that attack. The monster can't even believe what he's looking at. It's RMC, slamming straight into the ground with the skill. A system alert pops up, warning that he's in mortal danger. The notification tells him his new Pandemonium Overlord skill has been activated. This gives him a massive advantage against demons for the next 5 minutes. The monster snaps, asking how someone so pathetic could get this kind of power, screaming that it's impossible. RMC charges straight toward the monster. The monster is losing his mind over this. He rants that the Prophet never said anything about this happening. That's when Dawood starts unleashing a relentless barrage of attacks. He tells the monster to get up because round 2 starts right now. The monster ends up collapsed on the floor. He's in absolute agonizing pain. Meanwhile, RMC is totally furious about the whole situation. There's just one thing the monster can't wrap his head around. He demands to know how a kid can use the exact same power as him, only way stronger. Right at that moment, his pain gets even worse. He starts thinking about how hard he trained just to get this power. Seeing some random kid with the exact same power makes him completely furious. Overcome with rage, the monster snaps. A status window pops up, warning that he just released his demonic energy. Now both of them stand face to face, consumed by the exact same fury. RMC clenches his fist, winding up for another hit, and just like that, their two powers clash in midair. It's pretty clear our guy isn't messing around. The monster wants to show him once and for all what happens when you mess with him. The two of them throw down in an insane fight. The monster manages to grab the kid by the head. He screams at him to get lost once and for all, but Dawood blocks the attack using one of his wings. The demon can't even believe what he's looking at. He demands to know how some random kid can use a divine power like that. RMC completely ignores him and counters with a brutal front kick. The impact is so hard it sends the monster flying. Then he follows up with a relentless combo to crush the demon for good. The monster can't take it and starts screaming in pain. Without giving him a second to breathe, our protagonist gets ready to drop the final blow. The demon can't even wrap his head around why this is happening to him. Our guy doesn't care to talk and goes all out on him. But suddenly a notification pops up saying his skill timer just ran out. That's when he remembers he still has another item in his inventory that might help. He realizes he actually hasn't returned that object yet. The monster recovers and screams that he's going to destroy Dawood. He yells this out mid-stride, charging at him like a maniac. RMC just replies that those are some pathetic last words. Right then, the demon realizes his time has finally come. He wonders if everyone had already seen all of this happening. Deep down, he knew from the start there was no escaping this. Immediately after, a notification appears confirming the main quest is complete. Our protagonist stares at the screen, questioning if he really won all those rewards. Later on, the blue-haired woman demands our MC tell her everything he knows about the Grey Demon. He has no idea what she's talking about and asks what she means, so she fires back, asking if he really has no connection to the demon at all. Meanwhile, down the hall, someone asks if the blood bag is ready and the team says they're setting it up right now. Someone asks for her heart rate and the nurse warns it just dropped below 50. Turns out the white-haired girl is the one hospitalized in critical condition. In all the chaos, the staff starts asking why the priest hasn't arrived to help yet. One of the Grey Demon's main abilities is corruption. She says that power was used over a huge area right next to where our MC was. She points out that he ended up becoming the center of everyone's attention. Then she asks if he acted knowing things would turn out like this. He replies that he's given up on just being a background character and that surviving his run-in with the demon was pure luck. She tells him the Grey Demon is the strongest ruler in all of Pandemonium. That's why she thought it had chosen El Nori, the student council president, as its vessel. He listens to all of this in complete silence. He tries to stand up, but his leg is seriously injured. The woman thanks him for protecting both the school and El Nori. As he collapses again, she tells him to pay close attention because everything she's about to say has to stay top secret. Now he's lying with his head in the lady's lap. She explains that because of what the previous hero did, the demon fragments scattered and manifested across the world. Naturally, the other fragments tend to gather around that human at the center. And just yesterday, the Grey Demon temporarily awakened. Even in the original story, the other vessels caused a massive tragedy, the infamous Red Knight incident, brought on by the Crimson Demon. When you break it down, the only constants in this whole story are El Nor and Elia. She says the Holy Empire has an incredible intelligence network and has already tracked down the potential candidates. Since El Nor was one of them, they pulled every string to gather all those candidates at the exact same academy. He asks if putting so many dangerous people together in one place isn't completely insane. She explains there was only ever one time a vessel actually fell in love. When that happened, the demon fragment was completely destroyed, proving that love can erase the seed of destruction. Right then, the MC thinks this whole thing has nothing to do with him, but the lady mentions that the Grey Demon seems to have taken a real liking to him. Unsettled, he asks what she means, and she replies that she saw everything while treating his wounds. He tries to argue that maybe the demon just felt pity, but she shoots that down, saying the reason doesn't matter. This is the most important part. She insists the demon took an unusually strange interest in him. She takes the opportunity to bring up his unique talents. Then, she says she has just one favor to ask of him. She wants him to figure out a way to pacify and control the demon vessels. He freaks out and says he can't do that, but she promises she'll back him up so he can flirt with them without any issues. She tells him not to worry, since so far every single candidate is a woman, and all of them are drop-dead gorgeous. So in her mind, there's literally no problem here. After all, they're all magnificent women. She calls him a lucky man, saying if he managed to charm the Grey Demon, he can definitely win over any woman. The MC really doesn't like where this conversation is going. She tells him to use whatever means necessary. He asks if she really expects him to go around wooing all the demon vessels. She insists he can definitely pull it off if he puts in the effort, and with a bow, she asks him to save humanity. Our main guy says he already knows the answer, but asks what happens if he fails to lower the risks. She tells him humanity will be destroyed and the entire world will fall into ruin. She adds that an evil demon empire will be born. Right then, he realizes just how much he hates the game developers. Meanwhile, flowers bloom outside a bedroom window. The white-haired girl slowly starts waking up. She gets up and sits on the bed. She looks around, wondering where she is. Outside, someone tries to go in while another girl mentions she was there yesterday and even skipped class just to visit. The girl with glasses warns it'll take a while for her to wake up, but the moment she steps inside, she sees she's already awake. The silver-haired girl asks if her friend really skipped class. She replies that she was super worried about her. She says she seriously thought her friend had died. Then she asks just how hard she pushed herself in that fight. Ignoring the question, the silver-haired girl asks what happened to Dawood. The brown-haired girl explains he's already been discharged. She says he wasn't even hurt that badly, but the president was in such terrible shape that everyone thought she was going to die. The silver-haired girl asks again if Dawood really left the hospital already. Her friend remembers a few days ago, watching her lie motionless on that stretcher. Back then, she warned that things would get really bad if she didn't wake up. She even said she'd be forced to take our main guy's life, but he answered that President Elnor doesn't die that easily, promising she'd recover in just a few days. He added that the Tristan family isn't weak enough to risk their lives for someone like him. Back in the present, she asks if the president can even hold a pen since paperwork has been piling up. The president complains, reminding her she's still just a patient. Ignoring her, the girl mentions that two people have been making a huge scene lately. The first one is St. Lucian. The president finds it odd, asking if she isn't supposed to join the academy next semester. The girl explains that because of the recent incident, the Holy Empire and the Inquisitors have started moving. She says she doesn't even want to mention the second person, making the president curious to know who it is. The girl admits she hates talking about it, but she has to warn her. It's someone who causes nothing but trouble. She reveals that Gideon is joining the academy soon. The president says something, but her friend can't make out what she means. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a distant city, where houses stretch out across the area. Someone comments how nice it is to see such a lively town. A girl asks him to close the window because the noise is bothering her. The guy finds it funny that a saint finds the sound of people annoying. He says he'd get it if she'd spend her whole life locked away in some dark chapel. The mood starts getting dark, and he speaks up. He asks her once again to close the window. He says he just wants to enjoy this bit of peace for a little longer. The saint points out that a demon worshipper and a saint sharing a room is far from normal, asking if he really expects any peace. The blonde guy replies that he thought she had at least gotten a little friendlier by now. She explains they're only working together because they have a common goal, and she has zero desire to be friends. She asks if he honestly thinks that's even possible, whether it's humans holding her leash or fate controlling his life. At the end of the day, it's the exact same thing. She thinks back on all of it, and says there's someone she has to save. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a man mentions that parent visit day is coming up, but with harvest season here, it'll be tough for them to go. So instead, they're sending Herman in their place. His father tells the boy to just stay middle of the pack and avoid standing out. Meanwhile, several people are running around the area. The man says he's not worried since the kid has always been smart. He just asks him not to start any trouble or draw attention to himself. He adds that if he gets a girlfriend, he better bring her home for the holidays, and asks if it isn't about time he got a grandkid. The kid thinks to himself that he's glad his dad didn't see that. Someone asks if that's Herman, and if he's some kind of intern servant. The guy in glasses confirms it and tells them to just ask if they need anything. He mentions these are the grapes their master sent over. The MC tries the grapes and thinks they taste amazing. The others get jealous, complaining that he's even bringing a butler to school now. The MC tells him to just act like a normal friend and eat some grapes too, but the young guy finds the whole situation exhausting. The MC realizes he doesn't have time for this small talk, remembering the insane thing that woman said. He recalls her asking him to seduce all the vessels and save humanity from those demons in the process. That mission keeps bothering him, but he knows that won't be the only issue in his way. The real threat is the Chapter 2 boss. He should be preparing for that fight right now. In the original story, this guy wouldn't even be alive. And even though he didn't have the best relationship with his daughter, he's still her father. The original trigger for the Grey Demon's awakening was losing Gideon, except now she's already unlocked her first stage ahead of time. Just then, someone walks up and asks why the MC looks so grumpy. He figures it's best to stay away from that guy, but if they ever cross paths, he needs to get some information out of him. He thinks this is the perfect chance to defeat the Chapter 2 boss. He asks what that guy is doing with his butler. Since he messed with his butler, our MC tells him he's going to borrow his sword for a day. The guy drops to his knees, saying it's an honor. Our MC promises he'll return the sword later. The platinum-haired girl is annoyed, thinking he should have already learned that swordsmanship. The Wood mentions that the Tristan family's skills are incredible, and that he wishes he could at least learn the basics. This is actually the first time the two of them agree on something. She says that since her junior asked, she'll help out a bit. Our MC realizes that if he tried to teach Gideon himself, he'd only be able to cover basic swordsmanship. Both of them turn around when they hear someone say it's surprising the student president is taking a break. The president explains that our MC personally asked her to. The girl asks if the president only uses one hand on her sword while our MC has to use two. Our MC realizes that it doesn't matter who holds the sword. What really matters is who's teaching. The orange-haired girl says that's exactly why she should teach him, since she used to be a teacher's assistant. The president doesn't like that at all, and asks if she thinks she's better than her. Noticing the president's rage, the girl quickly says she could never win against her in a fight. But right after, she adds that she knows about a few of the president's weaknesses. That instantly pushes the president over the edge, and things get tense fast. The two decide to duel to settle who's better. The rule is simple: neither of them can use Tristan family powers. The platinum-haired girl comments that the other girl won't be able to push the president to her limits. Our MC is completely lost. They both wanted to teach him, and now they're suddenly fighting each other. At this rate, that girl is going to get completely overrun by the president. The junior says it's time to teach her a lesson. The president points out that her moves are way too flashy. Suddenly the junior manages to put her blade right against the president's neck. She gets ready to land the final blow, except the president effortlessly blocks her attack, and immediately follows up with a heavy counter. From there, the two go all out against each other. The junior complains that the president is not only fast, but way too strong, saying it's completely unfair. The president asks what she's whining about and if she really plans on losing to a demon. She glares at the junior, who's still bursting with energy. Right then, the junior lands a direct hit on the president. The junior reminds her that she comes from a demon family, so no matter how noble the president is, in a matter of days, she'll be completely consumed by the demon, whether she likes it or not. She pauses for a second, thinking about what to say next. Then she points out that in the end, it's really just a sacrifice for the demon. With that, she starts gearing up for another attack. The freshman powers up, bending the flames to her will. In a flash, she lunges forward, going straight for the president. The president raises her sword just in time to block the blow. The shockwave shoots off, flying right toward our MC and his buddy. The MC completely freezes up, totally caught off guard. Elmer points out that it looks like the girl can't even control her own power, so she jumps right in front of them to shield everyone. She had to move fast, because if those flames hit the MC, he was going to be seriously hurt. Realizing what she almost did, the freshman apologizes immediately. The MC's friend is so freaked out that he collapses onto the ground. Our MC notices that the president is way faster and stronger than she used to be. He wonders if she's already starting to merge with the shard. The freshman apologizes again, admitting she went way too far. Elmer replies that her swordsmanship is top tier, and she could even be a hero candidate, but she needs to focus on more than just swinging a blade. She adds that putting your own allies in danger is completely unacceptable. Ignoring the scolding, the freshman asks where that other guy went. Somewhere else. Someone is thinking that there's no time to waste fooling around. That someone is our MC who needs to get stronger no matter what. He knows he has to level up not just his sword skills, but his divine power too, and to pull that off, he's going to need help from the girl sitting over there eating an apple. The MC walks up and mentions that she looks like she's doing pretty well. That girl happens to be the saint's sister, and now it's time for her to return the favor. She remembers people telling her that pushing so hard wasn't going to get her anywhere. They told her that if she just waited around to be saved, she'd end up dead, and that relying on friends would only bring everyone more pain. They said hope is just the beginning of despair, and Hope she finally got the message. The point was clear. She had to accept her own fate, just like her sister did. Back then, she just listened to all of it in total silence. They used to say the saint's sister was nothing more than a cursed tool. They told her she'd be all alone until her final breath, and that it was the only way to protect everyone. That was Yuria's one and only purpose. She snaps her eyes open, startled. She realizes it was all just a bad dream. It's the same memory that keeps coming back to haunt her. Shaking it off, she takes a bite of the sweet apple in her hand. Savoring the fresh flavor, she tries to push the past out of her mind. Turns out she doesn't just have one apple, she's got a whole basket of them. Right then, someone shows up and ruins her peaceful break. The MC walks up and asks if she's doing alright. She looks back to see who's bothering her, and instantly her sword swings straight at him. He starts out coming and readies himself for the attack. She's confused why he'd step right into her range when he knew it was dangerous. He pushes himself just to keep up with the speed of her strikes. Without hesitating, she swings at him again. The MC dodges quickly. She says she didn't mean to attack, telling him to back off before he gets hurt. He blocks her attacks using his own sword. Right then, he notices something and immediately looks behind him. Her sword comes rushing at him once again, and the MC ends up falling backward onto the ground. He mentions she seems to be in great shape since she pulled off that move perfectly. She's totally caught off guard by how fast he moved. The apple even falls out of her mouth as he reminds her he promised to drop by and visit sometimes. A bit annoyed, he asks if she really doesn't remember him, adding that he brought food since he didn't know what she liked. He tosses the bag full of food over to her. He jokes that he always gets a harsh welcome, but gets that she's just trying to teach him a lesson. Then he asks if he came at a bad time. She suddenly remembers someone extremely rude in her past, telling her she'd be alone forever. The MC turns around and says he hopes she likes the food before letting her know he's heading out. He keeps remembering her past, back when that man said no one would ever save her or be her friend. Looking at all that food, she remembers him saying things like this would only bring her more pain. She stands there with her mouth open, staring at the massive pile of food. She slowly walks over and picks up a piece of bread. She just stares at the bread in her hand. Suddenly, unable to hold it in, she breaks down, crying. She really thought she was going to spend the rest of her life completely alone there. He checks his status window and thinks it's crazy that their relationship already reached level 1. Considering how little they've talked. He checks the rewards and sees he unlocked the B-rank swordsman's focus skill, along with the speed boost. As he turns off the faucet, he thinks this reward is amazing and will synergize really well with his other skills. Looking at the notifications, he finally realizes why dealing with Yuria was such a hassle. The MC warns his friend they're gonna be late, but his friend begs for just 5 more minutes. He thinks to himself that he needs to show what he can do to a type of swordsman that didn't even exist in the original story. Meanwhile, a huge crowd starts gathering at the venue. A knight asks an old man if he needs help, but the old guy replies that he just likes walking since it's good for his health. Some people in the crowd mention that it looks like the Holy Empire is sending representatives this year. Someone else agrees, saying it must be true since they just saw a few Holy Empire knights riding by. Elsewhere, the crowd is shocked to see an important figure attending the open classes. Some people can't even believe what they're seeing. Everyone starts wondering why he's even there. They're all saying he never shows up in public unless it's wartime. Turns out this man's daughter is the student council president. Gideon asks another man if he doesn't get tired of teaching kids. The man with the scar asks if he lost the first Archduke's technique, but Tristan says he's training exactly as he should. Gideon boasts about slicing a mountain in half, but the man replies that's a pretty primitive way to get things done. Just then, someone calls for the audience's attention. A beautiful woman announces that the fights will be closely monitored by teachers and on-duty medics. The man tells his colleague to pay close attention because this year's students are extremely strong, explaining that participants can choose any weapon they want, as long as it's wooden. With that, the fighters start entering the arena. RMC wonders if his game characters felt the same way, thinking he probably should have skipped this event since he doesn't think he'll catch Gideon's eye anyway. The fight will be against the blonde guy in a wound, since Alia isn't participating because she's a hero candidate. The woman tells everyone to grab their chosen weapons. Watching from the sidelines, Alia wonders why the MC is even competing. She wonders if he just enjoys messing with weaker people or if he's doing it out of obligation. The announcer tells everyone to get ready, because there's only 1 minute left until the battle begins. Everyone enters the arena knowing there's only one goal. The goal is to be the last one standing, and the winner will get points. Anyone who places in the top 10 wins as well. The young guy asks his master to at least try to make the top 10. The two girls think the MC has nothing to worry about with them around, fully confident and ready to help however they can. Higher up, someone is watching the whole crowd. It's the student council president, analyzing every detail. Her father just glances back, acting like he doesn't notice a thing. The woman tells everyone to get ready because the fight is about to start. She gives the signal and officially starts the match. The fighters show massive determination right out of the gate. The battle gets fierce in a matter of seconds. The first ones to fall serve as a warning for everyone else to stay sharp. But in the middle of all the chaos, one specific guy is targeting only the MC. The MC has no idea why this guy is coming exclusively after him. The two clash in an intense showdown, so the MC decides to try and impress the council president's father a little bit. He then uses a move called Brat Block. The man just watches, noticing that no matter how hard the MC tries, he still looks kind of clumsy. Suddenly, someone shouts that it looks like the two of them are having a lot of fun. It's a girl in a purple cloak, landing a kick straight on the MC. The MC gets caught completely off guard. He's surprised when she suddenly challenges him to a fight out of nowhere. The girl throws another powerful kick, hitting both the MC and the blonde guy. The MC remembers that she's actually the second daughter of the Tribal Alliance's chief, and the blonde guy ends up taking the worst of that hit. Both the president and Aaliyah are completely lost, asking who this girl even is. The braided girl warns the MC that if he won't make a move, she'll attack first. The MC realizes she loves fighting, recognizing her martial arts techniques as hand-to-hand combat from the Tribal Alliance. He even starts thinking she might be stronger than Elmer. The blonde guy tries to figure out why the MC defended him mid-fight. He asks if it's because Lilo is participating in the event too, so the blonde guy promises he'll help the MC take first place no matter what. Then he taunts the girl, calling her a rookie and saying he won't let her anywhere near the MC. That only makes things worse, because she gets pissed off and decides not to hold back against the second place guy. The MC instantly knows the blonde guy messed with the wrong person and is about to pay big time. She mocks him, telling him to hold on for a few more seconds so she can have a little more fun. She then gets ready to unleash another attack. Right then, the blonde guy realizes he made a massive mistake by provoking her. As she charges up her power, the MC decides to just defend himself and let the blonde guy fend for himself. The impact of her strike is so insane that it hits the people standing nearby too. The blonde guy ends up completely destroyed, lying on the ground. Now, the girl turns her eyes toward the MC. She remarks that she thought the blonde guy would last longer, but turns out she was wrong. Pointing her finger at him, she admits she's impressed he managed to block her attack. The MC decides to go all out, thinking he might actually stand a chance with his current skills. Both the president and her father watch, convinced he doesn't stand a chance. As soon as she starts attacking, he realizes right away that there's no way he can win. She unleashes a brutal barrage of attacks, one right after another. The poor MC has to try his absolute hardest just to block everything. Realizing the situation, he drops his sword straight to the ground. He simply surrenders and announces he's out. Even the girl is left speechless, and the teacher asks if he's really giving up and leaving the arena. The crowd starts calling him a coward, but his classmate thinks it was the smartest move he could have made. The MC mutters under his breath, saying nobody in their right mind would keep fighting that lunatic, not even for $1 million. Standing in the middle of the arena, the girl notices there are barely any participants left. The purple-haired girl gets furious, complaining that the useless guy quit right when the fight was getting good. She gets completely consumed by rage. Hearing all that screaming, the MC is just glad he got out, complaining that they won't even let him quit in peace. Suddenly, someone comes up behind him and throws a sack over his head. In another location, someone finally takes the sack off his head. He tries to stay calm, thinking he wasn't mentally prepared for this. The council president's father appears in front of him and asks what his relationship with his daughter is, and if she's the one who taught him swordsmanship. The boy replies that they're just friends, and she only helps him study, making sure to clarify that she never taught him any swordsmanship. The man sets his cup down on the table and asks where he learned that style then. He says that footwork belongs to his family's foundation, asking if the kid really thought he wouldn't notice. He demands the truth, warning that he won't ask a third time. Right then, the boy knows he can't show a single sign of nervousness. The man is visibly pissed off, so the boy speaks up, saying the Sword Emperor was always a master of incredible skill. The man asks if he's trying to claim his master taught him that, calling it an amusing lie and telling him to watch his mouth. The boy insists it's the truth, claiming he was even given a personal request, even though he knows deep down he's stretching the truth a bit. He goes on to explain that, to be specific, it's actually a mission. Then the boy asks the man to let him teach him the very swordsmanship that Dawood knows. Taken aback, the man asks if he's seriously proposing to teach him swordsmanship. He demands to know if the boy is ready to take full responsibility for what he's saying. The boy answers yes, standing by every single word. Hearing that, the man accepts the offer. Internally, the boy knows he's just relying on what he remembers from the original story. He thinks to himself that this is the first time seeing this man in person. Because of that, he can't even fathom how insanely strong the guy actually is. The man is reading his every move, so the boy knows he can't mess up for even a second. At the end of the day, he gets why the guy is suspicious. Seeing a total stranger show up out of nowhere spouting nonsense is pretty bizarre. Suddenly the man raises his index finger. He makes a lightning-fast motion and asks why the boy didn't defend himself. The boy has no clue what he's talking about. That's when the man explains he's already made his strike. Right at that moment, the boy's cup gets sliced right in half, along with the table. The boy realizes this is the legendary ability to cut through anything without even holding a sword. It's a technique only the Supreme Knight can pull off. The boy stays seated, completely still. Then his chair snaps in half too, and the man scoffs, telling him he's already lost his life twice and calling him pathetic. He asks how someone who can't even react to an attack like that expects to teach him anything. That right there is the strongest sword technique of the Empire's ultimate knight. It's the strike of someone who's fought a literal dragon. But the boy speaks up, saying the technique is incredible, but still incomplete. He explains that if it were fully mastered, there wouldn't be any visible movement at all. Deep down the boy knows this because he read the step-by-step guide in the journal detailing how Gideon grew stronger. He knows absolutely everything, including his master's secret past. The boy then starts addressing the man's true goal head-on. The man flashes back to his past, remembering when he was told that to break his family's curse, he would have to carry a heavy burden. Back then, the person had ordered Gideon to cut the sea itself in half. They told him his journey would truly begin once he could slice through the ocean, and now he hears the boy state with absolute confidence that rotational force is the real key to achieving it. He also explains that if he does it exactly like that, he could literally cut the ocean in half. Hearing that leaves the young guy completely blown away, so the man closes his eyes to really process what he just heard. Meanwhile, back in the classroom, the teacher explains divine power, saying it's completely different from magic since anyone can use it, though he warns that reaching the level required to actually use it is rare. Glancing over at the students as he speaks, to himself, he complains about how more and more desks keep ending up empty. He blames Riverback for everything, thinking that bringing a cultist into the school is crossing every line. On top of that, he hates the semester students because they question everything and even hit the teachers. Since no one knows he's working with Riverback, he just needs to hold on a little longer before disappearing for good. But he's snapped out of his thoughts when a student asks how you train divine power. He replies that you just keep using it, dismissing it as a stupid question. But Dawood argues back that asking is important, so the teacher loses his cool and ends the class early. Alone in the room, the teacher fumes, wondering why that kid always has to get in his way. He tells himself he just needs to grab the confidential info and get out, so he never has to deal with these students or the principal again. Right then, someone knocks on the door, and he decides to play professional one last time. As he walks over to open it, he yells out that they're going to break the door down. But right at that moment, the door blows inward, sending him flying back. Sprawled on the floor, he asks if she's crazy for kicking a teacher. She calmly answers that she was aiming at the door, not him. Then she adds that now, it's his turn. A little while later, the teacher wakes up completely tied up. Realizing what's happening, he starts shouting, warning them they won't get away with this joke. Except Dawood tells him this isn't a prank, they're here to arrest him. The teacher demands to know who gave them that authority, only to freeze when they call him a spy. Elner reveals they've already turned him in for helping with a recent escape incident. She points out that no real teacher would let their students get eliminated like that, which makes it obvious he isn't a real teacher at all. She adds that they have even more proof, having found letters between him and Marquis Riverback. The teacher yells that it's nonsense, claiming he was just being polite, so he's actually a victim here too. Checking his watch, Dawood says they don't have time to waste and orders him to hand over the other spies' names right now. Mocking him, the teacher tells him to go ask his mom, so Elmer immediately teaches him a lesson. After that, the teacher starts spilling everything, naming them one by one. He exposes the security guard, Barrymore, and a nutritionist, in. Then Dawood decides to heal him, since his injuries are ruining his pronunciation. Totally confused, the teacher asks what he's doing. He replies that he's healing him to practice his divine power, and that he'll keep using the teacher as a test subject whenever he can. Then Dawood turns away, mentioning that the teacher doesn't seem like the type to give up so easily after leaking just a few names. Hearing that, Elmer suggests searching his desk. Using his own powers to break free from the ropes, the teacher panics and screams at them to stay away from it. Looking through the desk, Dawood realizes the teacher was even hiding secret data on the Empire's military structure. Out of nowhere, the teacher lunges at him, demanding his papers back. Elmer has to take the professor down again. After the blow, his neck is practically snapped backward. He flies straight into the wall, hitting it with insane force. The impact is so loud that even the principal jumps, thinking it's an earthquake. Dawood catches the papers midair and says he got everything he needed. Elmer says they can hand the guy over to the Knights now, but Dawood tells her to hold on since he's still just a novice. He explains that he needs to study divine magic, and hearing that, the professor finally understands why he couldn't handle the kid as a student. Right then, the professor realizes the kid reminds him of a girl he met in the past alongside the Marquis. He remembers kneeling before the Forerunner saying what a huge honor it was to meet her. She had made it crystal clear that if he asked a single question about her, he was dead. If he dared talk about her to anyone, he was dead. And if he somehow forgot about her, he definitely deserved to die. The professor feels like Dawood is identical to her, giving off that exact same strange, chaotic vibe. It's like something is deeply wrong with him. But Dawood cuts his thoughts short and tells him it's time for his treatment. Once he finishes, he thanks Elnor and mentions that his divine power went up a lot, asking if beating the guy up helped her blow off some steam. Elnor replies that it didn't help at all, since she gets zero joy out of beating up old men. Except a system message pops up right then, confirming her madness status is gone, proving she's totally lying. While messing with some stuff nearby, she asks if he has anything he wants to tell her. She steps closer and says she heard about him meeting her father, and she wants to know exactly what they talked about. Dawood panics and asks why he would ever go looking for her father, but she snaps back that that's precisely what she's trying to figure out. Feigning confusion, he says he remembers the meeting now, but swears he doesn't recall telling anyone about it. Elmer doesn't buy it and repeats the question, while he desperately tries to make up an excuse since he was completely caught off guard. She says she hopes her father didn't do anything terrible to him, and Dawood quickly replies that nothing big happened. After calming down, he explains that the Archduke only summoned him because he saw him using the Tristan family's swordsmanship and wanted to know who taught him. A bit confused, she asks if her dad really cared about that. After all, he's the Grand Archduke Tristan. Dawood explains that one of the techniques she taught him really stood out during the fight, which is probably why the man came looking for him. Elmer listens and tells him he can do whatever he wants about it. She mentions her father has no patience for teaching beginners, but makes it clear she wants no part in any of this. Right after, Dawood says he has a feeling the Archduke is going to keep coming back to visit him. He thinks to himself that since the guy is her father, he has no choice but to put up with the visits if he wants to protect her, though he quickly wonders if it was even a good idea to say that out loud, especially since he doesn't actually have many ways to protect her yet. Suddenly, Elmer points out how he's getting way too comfortable around her lately. She warns him that if he really wants to protect her, he needs to learn his place and start addressing her as student council president. When he gets back to his room, his butler starts complaining about how much time he's spending with Elmer. Dawood replies that he only has 3 friends and Elmer's one of them, and he isn't even sure if they can really be called friends. He fires back that the butler draws way too much attention himself, and mid-conversation he remembers that the survival exam season is starting. Looking at the description on his glove, the system notifies him that as soon as enough holy energy is accumulated, he'll be able to perform the spiritual ritual. To ditch Herman, he sends the butler to an ice cream shop, telling him to try every single flavor and bring back a detailed report. Now alone, he thinks to himself that he'll finally be able to awaken the ghost of the Gregory Pavilion. All of this was made possible thanks to the intense healing training he did. Once the spirit is awakened, a legendary entity will appear, though the form it takes is completely random. If he got some historical figure that didn't fit his build, it would be a total waste. Without hesitating any longer, he opens the item. Out comes a glowing gacha card. As a vision starts to play, he's relieved to see that it's a knight. He wonders if it's Frederick the Lancer or Johann the Tank. Looking closer, the face seems familiar, and while he's happy with the pull, he wants to know who it actually is. That's when the system reveals it's Calivan Crixinax, the Guardian of the Dawn. He's completely shocked because that's Elia's older brother. The scene shifts to a town reduced to ruins and rubble. A group of civilians surrounds a young Elia. This is the place where the Crimson Demon caused the disaster known as the Red Night. The Royal Guard had to hold the line as long as possible. Calivan was one of the Guardians who risked his life to put an end to the Red Night. He ended up dying in battle and became a hero. But that day, Elia didn't just lose Calivan. Her father and mother were also killed in the conflict. Crying uncontrollably, she remembers her brother promising he'd come back. In the end, no matter how honorable a sacrifice is, it's still a devastating tragedy for the family left behind. On the day she lost her entire family, Elia swore she would follow in her brother's footsteps, all to defeat the demon that made her an orphan. After graduating as the top warrior, she earned the title of hero candidate, and her plan is to become a true hero once she gets her revenge. Back at the academy, the instructor announces that the exams will be done in 4-person teams to fairly evaluate combat and survival skills. Right then, Dawood tells Calivan that his sister is right there, alive and well. Surprised, the spirit asks if that girl is really his sister, and if she actually became an Imperial hero candidate. He mentions how she used to just run around aimlessly as a kid, but Dawood tells him she's all grown up now. The spirit says it was worth coming here just to see his sister again, even in a state like this. Dawood reminds him that this was only possible because of him, and asks for his cooperation, which the spirit agrees to, on the condition that they don't tell his sister anything. He says he can tell the kid is a good person, and asks him to protect his sister. Dawood replies that his goal is to make sure nobody gets eliminated. He then walks over to get Elia's attention. He brings up the exam groups, and asks if she still needs a team. Then he invites her to form a party with him. She double-checks to see if he's actually serious about teaming up with her. He confirms it, and apologizes for saying earlier that they weren't that close. He explains that he's asking her directly because he really needs her help. He finds it suspicious, and assumes he's going to ask her to do something weird. Suddenly, a guy from Elia's current group tells him to go ahead and take her, since she's always talking about him fondly anyway. So Dawood asks if it's cool if he borrows her for a bit. A classmate replies that he's actually doing them a favor, but right at that moment her teammate gets knocked out. With no other choice left, she asks if the two of them are going to team up. Dawood tells her they're putting together a party, but mentions they still need one more member. As they walk away, her old teammate just stands there, staring back in total disbelief. Meanwhile, over in the academy principal's office, tension is high. She's speaking to someone on the other end using a magical communication crystal. She points out how strange it was for a saint to arrive with a full escort, though she didn't think much of it at the time. The priest replies that he couldn't leave Lucian trapped in that place, since he needs a chance to prove his worth. The principal thinks to herself that even if the girl is viewed as a saint, the actual investigations tell a totally different story. In reality, she's a prime candidate to become a demon vessel. It all started when they locked up her twin sister, yet the church still insisted on sending this girl to the academy. She keeps wondering why the Holy Empire would ever make a move like that. The priest explains that it wasn't an easy decision for them to make either. The principal asks if this has anything to do with the demon beast incident. He confirms it played a role, but says the final trigger was discovering that one of the priests was actually a spy. She then asks if that news won't make things even more dangerous for the saint. The priest says no, claiming it's for her own good since she wants to prove she deserves that title. He says she needs to show courage and justice wherever evil rears its head. Finally, he mentions the academy is entering exam season and hopes the saint can help train the students. He promises to send more details later, but stresses that all of this is being done to wipe out evil in the region. The principal mockingly asks if this is just the Empire's way of looking down on the academy. She adds that she doesn't know his true intentions, but turning down the offer would just leave everything stuck as it is. The priest claims everything will work out fine if the saint accepts the mission, assures her she'll be a massive help, and cuts the connection. Exhausted after that conversation, the principal lets out a heavy sigh of pure frustration. She vents to herself, calling the guy nothing more than a fake, calculating manipulator. She never imagined she'd end up face to face with the saint so quickly. The real problem is realizing she's now being used as a pawn in the Emperor's game. She recalls the order she gave to Wood to seduce all the girls who act as demon vessels. In that moment, she realizes just how hypocritical she's being. At the end of the day, she's always manipulated the people around her to get whatever she wanted. Meanwhile, Yuria is washing some clothes down by the lake. She gets lost in thought, trying to figure out why he's taking so long to show up. It's been a few days now, and he always used to pass by around this exact time. She just can't get him out of her head. She remembers him saying he'd see her the next morning, playfully asking if he should bring sweets or meat. She thinks to herself that he didn't need to bring any of that. After all, just being by his side was more than enough for her. Suddenly, a dark voice echoes in her mind, telling her that he simply got tired of her. The voice repeats that the explanation is simple. He abandoned her. It's the priest's voice ringing in her head, telling her that by running away, she accepted her fate to eliminate anyone in her path. That was the exact curse she chose to carry. The voice ends by telling her she'll die all alone, because nothing has changed, and this will always be her reality. She was stuck there forever, all alone in an empty forest. She couldn't even call for help, so she had no choice but to accept her fate. Suddenly, she hears a voice asking why she's crying. It was Dawood, asking if anything happened while he was gone and telling her he couldn't find any cookies to buy. She doesn't even listen to a word he's saying. The second she sees him, she turns around with a huge smile on her face. Right then, his affection for her jumps from 1 to 4, and she immediately asks if he hates her or got tired of having her around. Completely confused, he asks what she's talking about and tells her he came back to ask for a favor. Then he asks if it's okay for her to leave that place. She takes a step forward, saying she'd do anything for him, but accidentally rips the bag of cookies in the process. She immediately apologizes, crying that she didn't mean to do it. She starts crying all over again, asking if he hates her now because of that. She starts screaming, begging him not to leave and chasing after him, while a startled Dawood complains that she's making him run. The scene cuts to the competition, where the teacher explains that the goal is to reach the Great Plains, and taking extra necklaces from opponents earns extra points. Annoyed by the whole situation, Ilya mentions that she has way too many questions for such an important day. Dawood tells her to ask everything later, but she snaps back that she's asking right now. She looks at the woman standing next to him and demands to know what's going on, and when he tries to explain it's not what it looks like, she doesn't buy it at all. Yuria sees them arguing and steps in, saying it was her idea, and that she actually feels more comfortable like this. Ilya can't fathom how that's possible and asks where their pride as human beings went. Calivan says he doesn't know what kind of relationship Dawood has with his sister, but he really needs to clear up this misunderstanding fast, except he instantly regrets saying anything the second he hears the response. Dawood tells Ilya never to leave his side, and more importantly, never to go anywhere near Yuria. Ilya wonders why she can't get close, says she gets the message, but warns him not to even think about putting a leash on her neck too. With everything settled, Dawood calls Yuria so they can get going. Meanwhile in the forest, a guy from another group mentions he thought they were going to get wiped out. He asks if everyone's okay and if anyone got hurt. The crew says they're fine, and one of them points out that girl from the tribal alliance was way too strong, even for Talion. Talion overhears this and says that if it weren't for him, every single one of them would have been eliminated already. They change the subject and suggest going after the weak targets, like Dawood, now that they're doing better. But Talion immediately cuts them off and says count him out. He explains that he doesn't hate Dawood anymore. He says he sees things clearer now, and realized the world is full of insanely strong people. In another part of the forest, Lilu stands over a defeated student, complaining that everyone here is weak. She wonders how it's even possible for everyone to be this useless. She thinks to herself that these people don't even realize you have to put your life on the line in a real battlefield. She says she's never seen anything like this, and wonders how they even survive being like this. But right as she's about to finish off her opponent, a flash of light appears out of nowhere to block the blow. It was Elmer, stopping the attack with her sword. The two stare each other down, instantly sensing each other's killer intent. Right after, both of them unleash a massive attack at the exact same time. Elmer then points out that Lilu is drawing way too much attention for someone who's supposed to be in exile. She says that as an officer, she can't tolerate this level of violence, and orders her to stop right now. Lilu asks why she should, and if Elmer's gonna do anything if she refuses. Elmer replies that if they were on a battlefield, Lilu's head would already be rolling, but since they aren't, she'll let her off with just a warning. Stepping forward, Lilu says this is a battlefield to her, and tells Elmer to go ahead and finish her off. She says now that she's drawn her sword, there has to be a fight. She asks what the problem is, saying everyone in the Empire is the exact same. She mentions there were even people back in her tribe just like Elnor, strong people with zero conviction, who do nothing but stand there and cry even when they lose the ones they love. Whenever she sees someone like that, she just can't control herself. With a smirk on her face, she takes another step forward, but looking back at Elmer, she suddenly notices the phantom of a gray demon looming behind her. This leaves the girl in complete and utter shock. She remembers what her father used to say, that the world doesn't revolve around her, and the stronger you get, the more you realize how massive the world really is. At that moment, she realizes the world really is way too big. Right after, she leaps into the air and sets up an attack. Watching this, Elmer doesn't show a single drop of emotion, seeing that the girl is actually going to attack. She uses a forced teleport. Without hearing a word, Lilu lunges forward with a terrifying look, right on the verge of landing her strike. Just as her foot comes within inches of Elmer's face, she starts feeling something strange, and out of nowhere, she simply vanishes. She reappears somewhere else and crashes straight onto the ground. Groaning in pain, she looks around. That's when she realizes she just failed the exam all because she got a little carried away. Out loud, she complains about how ridiculous the student council president's power is. But putting that aside, she feels like the gap between them isn't just power, it feels like they're totally different species. What she really wants to know is what pissed Elmer off, wondering if it was because she talked trash about the Empire. A few students nearby get terrified and ask if she's going to beat them up. She keeps thinking and figures maybe it's because she said she'd take away Elmer's loved one, leaving her wondering who that person could even be. Suddenly, right in the middle of a battle, Dawood gets a notification saying Lilu is showing interest in him. While running and dragging Yuri along who's wiping out everyone in her path, he gets another notification saying he just triggered a rage skill in Elmer. As he accidentally talks out loud to the system, Elia asks what on earth he's talking about. Meanwhile, Yuria keeps destroying everyone in her path, and right before getting knocked out, the students yell that Dawood is a fraud and that they'll rescue Elia. Hearing this, Elia asks if they shouldn't clear up this misunderstanding first, but Dawood replies that there's no way he's doing that, mostly because he's already way too busy trying to keep Yuria under control. As Elia gets dragged along, one of the knocked out guys screams that he was just trying to save her. While thinking about doing something about the rumors Elias fans are spreading, Dawood realizes he pulled Yuria too hard, and now she's right next to him. Hearing Dawood's screams, Elia wonders if they'll actually manage to finish this test. But suddenly, a golem crashes down right in front of them, and a guy standing on top of the monster greets Elia. He says that ever since the first day of class, he's always admired both her strength and her radiant beauty. Confused, Dawood asks if she always has this many fans. The guy says he doesn't know how she got captured, but promises he'll save her and even take her out to eat afterward. Totally out of patience, Elia snaps that she was never kidnapped and that Dawood isn't a fraud, but the guy keeps insisting that Dawood really is a fake. Sick of repeating herself, she draws her sword. The green-haired guy freaks out and says he doesn't want to fight her. Watching this go down, Dawood realizes knights, mages, and clergy members are all gathered here. This is the perfect chance to level up his skill, so he tells Calivan to wake up. He says he needs a favor, and tells him to step out, but Calivan replies that he doesn't really know what's going on, except that it looks dangerous. Yuria hears a strange noise and looks back. She notices a bunch of students charging over to rescue Elia. Shocked, Dawood asks why he didn't leave, and Calivan replies he's not getting involved in a kid's fight. Meanwhile, Elia attacks the golem with pure rage. Dawood warns that his little sister is dealing with a stalker. Instantly, overcome with rage, the spirit bursts out and activates the mental realm skill. This shares the desperate survival buff with the whole party. Furious, Elia says she doesn't need fans like this. The guy tries to warn her to hold on since his golem is made of stone and will break her sword, but he shuts up real quick when he sees the golem get sliced clean in half. His eyes go wide as he crashes down along with the stone monster. Everyone is stunned by what just happened. Even Elia herself wonders how she pulled off a feat like that. Dawood thinks to himself how impressive that was. The only issue with this skill is that it burns through way too much divine power. In the end, the buff runs out after just a hit or two. Still in disbelief, Elia looks back, but she notices a crowd of students rushing toward her, shouting that hero candidate or not, they won't let her protect Dawood. Right after that, the chains get yanked, and Yuria gets hurled straight into the crowd. Purely on instinct, she starts throwing punches and kicks at everyone. Once everyone is on the ground, she apologizes, saying she tried to hold back. Elia is shocked by how narrow-minded the students are, not even bothering to hear her side. She wonders how anyone could possibly view this situation in a positive light. As the students close in, she readies one of her strongest attacks, Guardian Burst. This creates a massive tornado that sweeps all the students into the air. Dawood thinks about how insane that hit was and is just thankful he's only F rank. Even the spirit wonders if she was always this strong. Suddenly, a notification pops up announcing that an ally has accomplished an incredible feat in battle, and his skill proficiency goes up. Looking down at his hand, Dawood wonders when the chain fell off. Screaming in despair, Elia complains that they're stuck in this exact same situation again, but she smiles to herself, thinking that being in Dawood's party is way more fun than she expected. Somewhere else, another team points out they now have 9 necklaces after grabbing that last one. The red-haired guy tells everyone they did a great job and probably hit the maximum score. Another team member mentions how smooth their teamwork was, but the girl cuts in and points out that even though it went well, they're still not in first place. She tells them second place already has 15 necklaces. The redhead says he can easily grab 6 more in no time, but the girl crushes his spirit, revealing that second place is just one single person, not a team. The rest of the party can't even believe it. She asks if anyone's ever heard of a guy named Fenelipek. They say they've never seen him, but complain how unfair it is to have a freak like that in their class. The redhead leans in and asks how many first place has, but she can barely get the words out. First place has a crazy total of 111 necklaces. Back to our main guy. He just unlocked a skill called Reflection, which returns a portion of damage whenever he lands a perfect block. Dawood gives everyone the news they were waiting for, announcing they've finally arrived. Elia asks if the exam ends once they grab that last one, and he teases that she should already know, being top of the class and all. Meanwhile, Yuria seems amused watching the two of them banter. Dawood recalls that in the game, this part was just a random event. He wonders if whatever shows up next will be worse than a beast, but Elia freaks out, saying this goes way too far, even for an exam. Even Yuria is completely stunned, because the person lying right in front of her is none other than her sister. The second he spots her, the main quest for Chapter 2 pops up. He has to quell the rage of the Curse of Rupture Bearer while keeping Yuria and Lucian safe. Elia walks closer, noting that the person lying there seems to be channeling divine power everywhere, everything from the necklace blessings to the teleports, but she admits she never expected Elfandi Academy to do something like this. Stepping closer, she promises she's going to save her. Right then, a voice calls out saying that won't be happening. It's High Priest Klein, claiming that the saint's work is completely voluntary. Furious, Elia asks if it's really voluntary. Klein reiterates that she's doing this entirely of her own free will. He says no one should interfere out of respect for her noble cause, then asks the saint directly if anyone forced her into this. Yuria is left in total shock when she hears her own sister claim she's doing all of this by choice. Elia asks how she can honestly say that when she's in such terrible shape. Klein warns her that a hero candidate should know that defying the saint's will is the same as defying the Holy Empire itself. Yuria is surprised by her companion's response. He says he's not defying anything, he's just trying to save someone who's clearly suffering. The priest warns her that if she keeps pushing, he'll be forced to step in. Dawood is completely caught off guard seeing the saint right there. After all, the Holy Empire is one of the world's 3 major powers. Their top brass are ridiculously strong, way beyond normal logic, especially the Pope, who's totally obsessed with expanding his reach. As for Lucian, he's the Empire's most valuable asset, and nothing more than the Pope's puppet. Both Yuria and Lucian are just tools for the Pope to use for his so-called greater good. It's like the system itself is pushing Yuria straight into despair, and Dawood isn't crazy enough to fight a vessel that's losing control. So Dawood tells her that they've already secured first place, so the saint should go rest. But Klein cuts in, saying the saint will stay put until second and third place arrive. Dawood knows exactly why they showed up so early, and Elnor is probably to blame. That monster attack definitely grabbed the Empire's attention, and the incident with the purifier gave them the proof they needed. Now they're sure Elnor is behind it since she was right at the center of both attacks. And if Yuria loses it now, things will only get worse. That would give the Pope an excuse to start directly meddling in Elfanti. He wonders if they already know about Yuria, thinking that if they do, he won't have any other choice. When a glove drops right at Klein's feet, the priest has no idea what Dawood is trying to do. Dawood tells him he might not have learned this in the Empire, but that's a formal challenge, leaving Elia completely shocked. Even Yuria is stunned by how bold he's being. Not even the saint has any clue what Dawood is planning here. He tells Elia to get out of there right now and take the saint to the infirmary. He orders Klein to stop interfering and fight him, while the priest is left wondering how these insane situations keep happening to him. Klein warns him that this could turn into an international incident, demanding to know what title this student even holds. Dawood casually replies that he's just a nobody from a family of barons. Klein complains, saying that as a high priest, he can't just throw down with any random idiot who challenges him. Hearing that, Dawood asks him why he drew his sword in the first place then. Since the hero candidate is standing right there, he doesn't get why the priest is worrying about him so much. Dawood realizes he needs to be aggressive to break this situation, so he warns Klein that he's drawing his blade. Klein scoffs, saying that for a simple student like him, he just needs to teach him a quick lesson. The exact second Dawood draws his sword, he lands a fast, perfectly timed counterattack. Right at that moment, his rebound skill kicks in. The impact sends the priest flying backward instantly. While everyone stands there speechless, Dawood is already playing out his upcoming conversation with the principal in his head. He'll explain that he didn't start a fight, but issued a formal duel, and that the unhinged priest attacked him first. The principal will remind him the guy is a high priest, and Dawood will say it's fine because he's using the Tristan family's immunity card. She'll point out that they can't do anything about the saint anyway, asking if he really wants to go through with this duel. When she questions him, he'll say he's already won over 50% of Yuria's trust. Since the girl was right there when the mess went down, the principal gets confused and asks why she went there in the first place. He explains he brought her along to secure first place. After all, he needs to get the vessel's attention, and just playing the nice guy isn't going to cut it. But she reminds him of his friends, saying he needs to fix his own life before trying to save the whole country. He replies that he's never had any issues with Aaliyah or El Nori. She explains she's talking about his school life in general. Dawood should focus on making friends and stop getting into trouble, but thinking back to Archduke Tristan, he admits he's already failed at that part. The principal warns him that since news of his challenge reached the Holy Empire, the Pope himself might show up in person, and she's not sure if he planned for that. After all, the Pope is extremely dangerous, so he needs to think carefully before moving forward. A short while later somewhere else, the Saintess is relaxing peacefully in bed, enjoying the moment while smoking a cigarette. Suddenly she hears a knock on the door. She tells them to come in, but as soon as she sees who walked in, both of them freeze in complete shock. Totally confused, all she can do is say Yuria's name, and just as baffled, the visitor calls out her name in return. Sensing the awkward tension in the air, the Saintess decides to get up, but seeing her move, Yuria completely panics. She desperately begs the Saintess not to come any closer, but the Saintess keeps walking toward her anyway. Yuria warns her that because of the curse, if she gets too close, she'll end up getting badly hurt. But Lucian says that's actually a relief, since the two of them are twins. Meanwhile elsewhere, the rules of the duel are announced. No killing allowed, and if anyone gets seriously injured, the fight stops immediately. Dawood knows Lucian is crucial for Yuria's awakening, because without her, Yuria's mind will be destroyed by obsession, causing the girl to completely break down. That's why this duel has to happen. The Holy Empire's interference in Lucian's life needs to end once and for all, and this fight has to make a big enough impact to change that. With that, both fighters are teleported straight into the arena. The principal thinks that even if the Pope didn't come in person, there's no way he'd miss watching a fight like this. Out in the arena, Klein warns him that it's too late to ask for forgiveness now, but he'll still offer a chance. The sooner he surrenders, the fewer bones he'll get broken. After saying that, he asks if the kid heard the warning clearly. Up in the stands, the butler comments that there's no shame in giving up as soon as it starts, since he has zero chance anyway. But cutting the butler off, Dawood replies that he finds that funny, since he was just about to offer the exact same deal. Hearing that, the high priest instantly remembers a conversation he had the night before. In that conversation, the Pope warned him not to strike with intent to kill, because the stronger the hit, the stronger the backlash would be. Klein had asked if an ability like that actually existed, and the Pope replied he'd seen something similar before, though he didn't expect to run into it again. Finding it ironic, he realizes that in the end, he was the one who walked right into his own defeat. The Pope tells him to crush the enemy spirit once and for all. He gets ready for battle and activates his stacked blessings. Right after that, he keeps charging up his power. He plans to use this attack to teach him a lesson. He wants to put that arrogant noble right back in his place. The Pope watches closely, enjoying the fact that the fight is about to start. Just as Klein goes to unleash his attack, Dawood activates guidance. He uses his copied skill, Wrath of the Grey Demon. Still in midair, Klein feels something terrifying coming his way. Suddenly, everything around them seems to turn upside down. A flash of light appears, accompanied by red lightning. The lightning turns gray, and a notification pops up saying the seal of Heavenly Fall is reacting. Klein is frozen completely solid in midair, unable to move. Taking advantage of the opening, Dawood raises his sword for the final blow. He lands a direct hit, sending cracks spreading across the ground. Right after, the world returns to normal, color returning to everything. The sheer force of the impact leaves the headmistress completely stunned. The guards are absolutely terrified by what they're seeing. The display is so intense, it even brings a smile to the Pope's face. A status window pops up confirming that guidance has been activated. Another alert pops up, stating the seal of Heavenly Fall has reacted. The two of them remain locked in a fierce duel. One more notification shows that demonic energy is gathering inside the seal. Everyone freezes when they realize the demon has manifested inside Elmer. Right then, the demon appears in the form of a beautiful woman. Our main guy realizes it's going to be tough to handle this with just his own power. The woman just stares at him in complete silence. He gets ready to rush in and attack her, but before he can strike, she leaps backward to put some distance between them. He finds her behavior pretty strange. The demon tells him he's hurting her feelings. She touches his sword and red energy starts surging out of it. Then she just flashes a smile. He can't take his eyes off her. The two of them keep trading blows back and forth non-stop. He finds it weird how effortlessly she blocks all his attacks. Since the rule is not to kill the guy, she decides to just teach him a light lesson. Her blow lands with crazy power. The massive impact sends him flying through the air. The hit is so strong that instead of falling, he stays suspended in the air. Meanwhile, someone else is watching the whole thing unfold with their eyes closed. They point out that while he was distracted, that group grew way more than expected. The kid then turns to the winner and asks if he has anything to say. Then he tells them to keep leeching freeloaders like that away from him. The crowd snaps, yelling at him for having the nerve to disrespect Her Holiness like that. People start complaining, asking what kind of school teaches its students to behave like such trash. Right then, a guy steps in and calls them out, saying they sent a grown knight against a kid, and that's not even the worst part. He keeps blasting the group, calling every last one of them a bunch of creeps. Even a kid in the crowd jumps in, calling them out and asking how they still have the nerve to call themselves a holy empire. The guy laughs out loud as he throws all these insults right in their faces. The kid looks back at them and asks what they're going to do now. She says she gets the point. Even though the duel ended up being a complete waste of time, she agrees to accept his request, leaving the woman beside her stunned. It's obvious the kid isn't just a combat prodigy, he's also insanely sharp. Admitting defeat, she decides to walk away, taking the injured man with her. Meanwhile, far away from all the drama, a secret meeting is taking place. A man with his back turned gives a direct order to the woman beside him. He tells the purple-haired woman to look into everything about the kid. She agrees immediately, promising to do exactly what he asked. The man points out how impressive it is for a single duel to grab the attention of 3 whole nations. Dawood sighs in relief, glad that guy is finally gone. In the background, the referee calls the match and officially announces Dawood Campbell as the winner. His mistress lets out a sigh of relief seeing the kid got out of that mess completely unpunished. Even Hatton praises the kid, saying he likes him and that he moves like a true warrior. He tosses Dawood the lion's necklace, a powerful item that boosts vitality and grants a huge stat buff to physical strength. Dawood moves fast and catches the gift right out of the air. Before leaving, the tribe chief invites the kid to visit his village, promising him a warm welcome. He admits he's thoroughly impressed and can't wait to see that kind of power in action again. Dawood realizes that in the original story, this item wasn't supposed to drop until way later, but he got it early simply because he gained the respect of the most dangerous man in the tribal alliance. Back at the academy, the headmistress asks if he used the vessel's power again during the fight. He admits he did, but claims it was pure luck that it worked out. She warns him that both Hatton and the priest clocked what happened, meaning multiple factions are about to start hunting him down. She tells him to gear up, because his life is about to get crazy chaotic. Without flinching, he tells her he gets the message. The next day, a system window pops up announcing the main quest is officially complete. As a reward, he gets an Echo of Blessing, along with another evil seed. With this new drop, he now holds a total of 4 evil seeds in his inventory. He knows there are high-tier system skills that can only be unlocked using this specific currency. One of them is Eye of Perception, a skill that lets him inspect an opponent's entire stat sheet once a day. He realizes the info provided by this skill is absolute and tamper-proof, leaving 0 room for error. Typed to test out his new power, he starts scanning around for a target to use it on. He sees Trisha, but decides he doesn't need to analyze her right now. Soon after, he spots the professor, but figures it's better not to use the skill on her either. Then he notices someone nearby running and completely out of breath. It's Elmer, the perfect person to test his new power on. Watching her train, he notices she's practically plowing through everyone in her path while running. He figures it makes the most sense to use this skill on important figures like Elmer or Elia, so he finally activates Perception Gaze. Almost all of Elmer's stats are S rank, and she's fused with a demon fragment at an 80% fusion rate and 2% corruption. That 80% fusion rate seems pretty high to him, and he's sure the Riverback incident pushed that number up. At least her corruption is still low, otherwise she'd already be a demon, when suddenly an eye pops up right in his field of view. Startled, he asks how she knew he was there, and Elmer says she felt a super suspicious glare coming from his direction. Taking advantage of the moment, she tells him she found the guy he asked her to look for, warning that he's no ordinary human. She adds that from here on out, he'll have to handle things on his own, since her job as student council president takes up all her time. Dawood thanks her and asks if it was tough finding the guy, but she explains her position as president made the search a lot easier. She also mentions that the Holy Empire expanded its delegation, and asks if he knows anything about it, but Dawood dodges the question and pretends he has no clue. Believing his answer, she hands over the logs, tracking all of the target's movements during the exam. Looking at the report, Dawood is impressed, remembering that in the original story, this tracking had to be done manually. He gives her a quick hug and promises to return the favor later. He notes that the report points to the clock tower as the target's location, so he says goodbye and heads over right away. Without him even realizing it, that unexpected gesture leaves Elnori blushing like crazy. When he reaches the tower, he rushes up the stairs as fast as he can. Recalling the report and knowing the guy usually stays at the tower until 7, he realizes the guy entered the academy around the same time as the Saintess. Dawood figures that given his personality, the guy would do anything to avoid going outside, but he'd still need to catch some sun once in a while. At the top is the young King Valkarthus, who looks at him and says, Dawood seriously needs to work on his stamina. Turning around, the king asks if he's Dawood Campbell. Totally confused, Dawood asks how he already knows his name. Valkarthus tells him to catch his breath first, and reveals that the seer was the one who told him about Dawood. Dawood then wonders why the seer would send him here even while knowing who he is. The king says Dawood is lucky to have an excellent spy, but points out he's in no position to schedule a meeting. After all, they're enemies. Still catching his breath, Dawood finds it weird that the seer, who is just a minor demon worshipper in the original plot, is now directly interfering with the story. Valkarthus warns him that the seer's assessment was straightforward. Dawood is his biggest obstacle. Then the king asks him to answer whether he's really going to stand in his way. Dawood realizes this guy already knows his identity and his every move, giving orders without ever having met him in person. In the end, this way of operating is identical to his own. Valkarthus then asks how much he actually knows about the situation. He explains he heard Dawood had information on them, especially since he only came looking for him because he knew exactly who he was. Dawood replies that he knows enough to tell the guy doesn't have bad intentions, even if his plan is to take over the academy and eliminate everyone in the process. The king confirms that's right, and says the attack is happening in 3 days because the prophet is extremely strict about deadlines. On top of that, they're still trying to figure out who this prophet actually is. Worst of all, down the road, Dawood might end up having to fight the very person who received divine enlightenment. Confused, Dawood asks why he's telling him all this. He reveals he knows exactly who his opponent is, Valkarthus, the last king of Armada, who used alchemy to absorb every single one of his subjects. The king points out their enemies, so he shouldn't be giving away free information. He adds that he hates it when people mess with his plans. Still, the king insists he's not here to ruin anything. He just wants a fair fight. He believes a game should always be fair, and even with all this knowledge, Dawood is still at a massive disadvantage. He figures Dawood only came here to make sure he wasn't going to play dirty. Dawood realizes he's hit the nail on the head. Without losing his composure, Dawood immediately activates his perception skill, but the king just tells him to take a really good look. Dawood sees that the king has 2 million alchemical spells embedded in his body, and he knows every single one cost a human life. The king remarks that using that skill during battle isn't very practical. Dawood replies that he knows, which is why he usually uses it in secret. He adds that he's just trying to keep things fair too. The king says he wanted to see if what the prophet said about Dawood was true. He asks him not to take it personally, but he honestly can't see how Dawood poses any threat. Dawood clenches his fists and asks if he wants to make a bet. 3 days from now, at the exact moment the king plans to wipe everyone out, Dawood will do everything in his power to stop him. In 3 days, he's going to save the king and his entire kingdom. In return, if he wins, he wants one thing. Before he can even finish, the king cuts him off, saying Dawood will just become another number inside his body. He leaps off the tower, telling Dawood he'll see him later. Looking down, all Dawood sees left behind is a trail of souls. He starts wondering what will happen if he actually loses this bet. He quickly pulls himself together, telling himself he can't even entertain that thought. That's the most important rule. Meanwhile, somewhere else, standing outside the room, Lucian asks if Yuria is done getting dressed. She turns around and asks if the girl likes her new clothes. Yuria says she does, but she seems a bit uncomfortable. She explains she's never worn anything like this before, and it feels a little embarrassing. Hearing this, Lucian tells her she can take whatever she wants from the wardrobe. After everything she did, it's the absolute least she can offer. He reassures the girl that she can relax, as long as she's around. Lucian assumed the girl's spirit would be broken from the curse, but she's happy to see she's still so pure. Then she looks back and notices the girl is wearing a collar. She asks her what on earth she's doing with that on. Yuria explains it was a gift from Dawood to represent their relationship, and she put it on because he said he wouldn't come see her unless she wore it. Lucian is left completely speechless, so Yuria quickly clarifies that she doesn't think Lucian's gifts are any worse. It's just that Dawood made it clear he'd only visit if she wore the collar, so she begs Lucian not to get the wrong idea. Gritching her teeth, she calls out to Yuria, and asks where that scoundrel vanished to. With a smirk, Dawood says it's all just a misunderstanding, knowing how bad this looks, but he insists it was necessary to keep Yuria's curse under control. He explains that he only used the collar because it was the only thing he could find in time. The saint says Yuria is her sister, the only family she has left, and they've finally reunited after years apart. Dawood says he already knew that, but she snaps back that that's precisely the problem. She wants to know how on earth he knew something like that. She says she was just annoyed at first, but the more she heard about him, the more suspicious he seemed. She can't wrap her head around how a frontier baron knew about her connection to Yuria, or how he managed to defeat a high priest. Dawood knows he got all this from his game knowledge, but obviously he can't tell her that, so he claims it was all arranged with the principal, which is why he can't go into details, but he assures her he's on her and Yuria's side. Calming down a bit, she calls him out. She says she'll let it slide this time, since he did fight for them and take care of Yuria. As both of them sigh in relief, she warns him that she still doesn't fully trust him, and says that while his identity doesn't matter right now, she wants to know every single detail of what he's planning. Dawood then starts explaining that the Holy Empire's plan requires both Yuria and Lucian. It's called the Homunculus Project. The title of saint isn't something she was born with. Lucian was actually created by fusing materials together. She was made to contain holy power, while Yuria was created to support and boost that power. That's how the Holy Emperor plans to create his paradise on Earth, where everything is ruled by his own version of justice. However, Yuria's escape ruined those plans, and he'll never stop coming after them. The Pope only lifted the restrictions temporarily, because Dawood is there. That's why they need to take advantage of this window to prepare. Getting even more stunned, Lucian demands to know who he really is to know so much about this. Inside a room, notifications pop up to remind him that there are only 3 days left until the Little King's main quest. Standing in front of an orb, the saint says that's a divine artifact maintaining the protective barrier around the entire academy, and she asks if that is really going to help. Dawood says he has no doubt about it, but points out that she gave him a hard time earlier for putting a collar on Yuria, yet here she is doing something even worse. The saint explains they can't just ignore the curse. On top of that, they have to put on a show and act like they're taking the girl in for an exorcism so nobody gets suspicious. Understanding the situation, he tells her she can take off her hood now and asks everyone else to wait outside. But Elia says she's not leaving, because to protect the saint she needs to keep a close eye on him. The saint agrees, saying she still can't trust Dawood completely. She explains that the star core is made of the same substance as Yuria's sword. She adds that even approaching it is strictly forbidden, but having a hero candidate around makes her feel safer. She says the only reason she brought Dawood here is because she trusts the creator who led them to him. Dawood thinks that makes sense, and is just grateful she brought him this far. Handing over the leash, the saint asks Elia to watch over her sister. Elia accepts the task, saying she feels deeply honored by the trust placed in her. Meanwhile, Dawood thinks about how demons can freely meddle in the human world, but for angels, it's a completely different story. He knows lower-rank angels are bound by the rules of the world, which is why those last ones couldn't act without a reason. But things are different when a heroine is involved. The saint lets Yuria know she'll be waiting outside. She asks if Yuria can protect herself if things go sideways, and Yuria just nods. Dawood keeps thinking, and remembers that a heroine is a pure-hearted human who acts as a bridge for angels to intervene in the world. So it makes sense for the saint to trust Elia, even if she's just a candidate right now. Elia tries to live up to that trust, telling Yuria not to worry because she'll keep her safe. Except Yuria is instantly horrified when she sees what Dawood does right after. Without hesitating for a second, he throws a direct blow at the crystal. The attack barely leaves a tiny scratch on the surface. That sudden move completely terrifies Elia. Dawood, meanwhile, just stares at the results of his hit, feeling a bit concerned, and Yuria is left in absolute shock by what he just did. Meanwhile, outside, the saint starts thinking things over. She figures that if Dawood even knows about the homunculus project, his information network must be insane. She still doesn't trust him, but she figures there must be a reason Elia and Yuria follow him, thinking he might not be completely reckless after all. Elia can't believe what's happening right in front of her eyes. Even the saint's sister is completely frozen, unable to process the scene. That's a virtuous angel standing before them, a rank way higher than Dawood ever anticipated. He was expecting another low-ranking angel to show up, just like last time, but reality turned out way different. He realizes he's in for a huge, dangerous surprise. Right then, the angel reads the human's thoughts loud and clear. Elia mutters that heavenly matters are completely impossible to predict. As it starts to descend, the angel speaks up and says it remembers him. It asks if he ran into its soldiers. Dawood admits he did, and asks if it's going to attack his mind now to teach him some manners. The angel replies that it has no intention of attacking him. Dawood gets suspicious. In the original game, angels couldn't interfere freely, but they could still launch mental. The penalty wasn't even that severe, but it was enough to paralyze players so they couldn't do anything else. Usually players gave up right away, so he wonders why this one is just standing there doing nothing. Then the angel tells him that it finds his thoughts very interesting. Instantly, a heavy force slams down on Dawood, forcing him to his knees. It says it only planned to give him a simple warning, but it sensed his intentions were way too direct. Dawood just tells it to get it over with, and the angel tells him he better brace himself. Dawood wonders if this is what the actual attack feels like. A second later, he finds himself standing in a completely different place. He wonders if this environment is supposed to be his own mental realm. Even the angel is stunned by what it sees inside his mind. It explains that a person's mental space is supposed to reflect their moral alignment, and looking at this place, the angel can't tell at all if Dawood is good or evil. Scratching her head, the angel complains that she should have just let the soldiers handle all this. She hates this whole situation. With a scowl, she mutters that she can't believe a human like him even exists. Meanwhile, Dawood actually tries to open up a mental space. That means exposing a part of his soul, which is exactly what he wants. Right after that, the space connected to his soul is created, and that's when something strange starts happening. The angel asks if he closed his own mental space. He says no, adding that he wouldn't even know how to do that. So the angel just watches to see what happens next. Dawood is watching closely too. The angel asks what on earth is going on. She steps in closer to get a better look, but then she realizes there's something right behind her. Both of their eyes go wide in shock. They realize it's a demon. The demon glares right at the angel and blasts her with energy. Turns out, it's the white demon herself. Her eyes widen the second she looks at Dawood. A status window pops up, warning that the white demon has taken an interest in him. She even calls him her darling. She spots a mark on his body. As she's pulled by those thread-like lines, she says she's always wanted to meet him. Dawood definitely wasn't expecting a reaction like this. The angel watches the whole thing with absolute hatred in her eyes. The demon leans in close, licking her lips like she wants to taste him. She just wants to take a little bite out of him. She gets so close that Dawood starts breaking out in a cold sweat. He knows that if he gives in to temptation, he'll end up her slave. The demon looks at him full of desire. The angel isn't having it and grabs the demon by the hair, pulling her back. As the angel yanks her hair, the demon screams at her to let go. Dawood wonders if a low-tier angel can actually go head-to-head with a demon. Furious, the demon vows to destroy the angel the second that little rat lets go of her hair. The moment the angel slips up, the demon breaks free and pops her claws out. The angel throws a few punches to teach her a lesson, but the demon counters immediately with a strike of her own. Pissed off, she hits the angel so hard that feathers go flying everywhere. The blow sends the angel flying backward. It was a heavy hit, leaving the angel in insane pain. The demon goes all out, rushing the angel to land another attack. The hit is so powerful that smoke literally comes off the impact. Our main guy just watches the whole thing, completely lost on what's happening. He warns the demon that he won't forgive her if she touches that angel again. That makes the demon furious. She can't stand being blackmailed by a mere human. The angel snaps at him in annoyance, reminding him that she told him to keep his mouth shut. He orders the demon to let the woman go and get out of his mental space, telling her they'll settle things later. He asks if she heard him loud and clear, promising that the two of them will meet again. The creature asks if that's a promise. He confirms it is, knowing deep down that it's bound to happen anyway. Then he warns her that if she doesn't listen to him, he's gonna jump. He asks if she has any idea where his soul will end up if he does something like that inside the mental realm. She just stares at him, looking totally confused. After thinking it over for a second, she finally lets the woman go. She asks if he's threatening her, and he immediately answers yes. He tells her to get lost right now. The demon says he better keep that promise. She mentions that she wants to devour his soul later because it looks absolutely delicious. Our guy thinks to himself that now that angel owes him big time. Looking back, he asks the angel if she agrees with that. She asks what he wants, already wearing a look that says nothing good is about to come out of his mouth. A few hours later, someone asks if that thing really is a stellar iron bar. It's the saint who asks, wondering if he actually managed to get that from an angel. He explains that he's going to use it to craft an item to ease her sister's curse. Her friend asks if just that will be enough, and he says there's more to it, explaining that stellar iron boosts vitality and is insanely durable. The orange-haired girl asks if finding an angel is all it takes to fix the problem for good. He says yeah, but warns them that the real fight hasn't even started yet. She asks if he's hiding some kind of secret from them. Our guy completely ignores her question. The saint just keeps staring at the object. The orange-haired girl asks if they shouldn't start preparing, too. He tells both of them to pay close attention to what he's about to say. He explains that they need to save the school. Somewhere else, the president is reviewing some paperwork. Meanwhile, the purple-haired woman is busy working on something. The blonde guy looks visibly pissed off. A red-haired guy mentions that tomorrow is the final day of outdoor training. The other guy agrees, saying they're gonna take first place, while our main guy walks through the crowd. He thinks about how, without knowing the truth or the danger, sometimes he wishes he could just live a normal student life like them. He closes his eyes, remembering that he doesn't have a single good memory of school or anything outside of it. Out of nowhere, someone asks if he's used to being all by himself. He asks her who she is. She says she's what he'd call a butterfly effect. Now he's standing face to face with this mysterious woman. She tells him that everything that's happened led to her standing right here in front of him. He asks her again who she is. She gets closer, instantly appearing behind him, and says she thought he'd be smarter but he's actually pretty average. She even points out that he's so normal it's almost creepy. She finds it amazing that someone like him has survived fighting demons for so long. Looking at her, he tries to remember if anyone like this existed in the original story. He asks one more time who she is, and she answers that she's his #1 fan. She says she's way better than those demon girls, while he keeps pushing to know her true identity. She explains she's just someone who hates seeing those girls anywhere near him. Then she casually mentions that she managed to grab the key. Holding up the object, she laughs and tells him he's way too careless. He tells her to give it back, realizing how dangerous the situation is and finding it weird that no system notification popped up. She says it pisses her off seeing those girls act like they actually matter to him. She even confesses that she just wants to kill every single one of them. She claims she's the only person who truly understands him. She insists she's the only one in the world who ever could. Tossing the key into the air, she says she's the only one who can actually look him in the eye. She adds that she's the only villain capable of doing something like this. Not even those demon girls could pull off what she's about to do. She says she's sure he's fully prepared to fight the Boy King. She tells him the Valkesu's invasion could happen at any second, but she knows he can handle the pressure. She asks if he'll still figure a way out even if nothing goes according to plan. She wants to give him the benefit of the doubt because she knows he's going to pull off something entertaining. Then she tells him to make her fall even deeper in love with him. Meanwhile, somewhere else, the orange-haired girl is eating something delicious and deciding she's called it a day. Her friend asks if Elia isn't pushing herself too hard, mentioning she heard about her solo training. Elia asks if the Holy Studies group was talking about it, and her friend confirms that Elia is getting famous. She says she only found out about the training by accident, since not even Elia's fan club had said anything. Elia is surprised and asks if that fan club still exists. She remembers shutting it down last time with Dodd's help, and her friend smiles, saying it's nice to see the two of them getting along so well. Her friend then asks if she still holds any grudges against him. Elia replies that honestly, she just feels a little disappointed. Her friend points out that taking down a giant monster in one hit or wiping out a whole horde of enemies at once is seriously impressive. Elia says that compared to someone who can do that, she's just a candidate, barely stronger than a normal human. Suddenly both of them sense something wrong in the air. Everyone around them senses the danger too, and starts screaming that the protective barrier is tearing open. A woman shouts at everyone to get to the shelter immediately, warning that this is extremely dangerous and not a drill. Meanwhile, some people are still fast asleep, completely unaware of the chaos unfolding around them. Some people had no idea what was going on, but the girl with glasses tells everyone to grab a weapon just in case. The barrier was breaking down. The orange-haired girl thinks that a breach caused by a seraph would draw in every evil entity in the area. Right away, a woman rushes toward the breach. She starts unleashing her power. She thinks this happened way faster than our main guy said it would. If this was part of his plan, he was in deep trouble. She figures he's going to have a lot of explaining to do later. Everyone notices the sky changing. Some people even start screaming in terror. Naturally, the evil creatures notice what's happening right away. Everyone starts running for cover. They yell for everyone to get inside and protect the freshmen. You can see a monster's giant claw popping out. The monsters are going completely wild. Someone asks what kind of enemy warns their opponent before attacking. A guy says he's ready and tells the other to hurry up because he's waited long enough. The monsters keep attacking with everything they've got. All they want is to taste human flesh. The student begs for help in total panic. His professor shows up and slices the monster right in half. He asks if he taught the kid to just stand there like an idiot and yells at everyone to get inside. He warns them not to even think about playing the hero right now. He thinks to himself that things are looking really bad. After all, the monsters inside the school aren't the only problem. If the barrier completely shatters and all that energy gets concentrated here, things are going to get really ugly. The woman tries to restore the barrier while wondering what the chancellor's plan actually is. All the teachers yell at the students to move faster. One teacher warns them not to fight, just evacuate the area. He tells Unit 1 to keep evacuating people and orders Unit 2 to fall in with him to hold the line. They have to stop those monsters no matter what, and with that, they jump into the fight. Our protagonist realizes his plan has totally failed. The monsters are loose and the barrier is gone. None of this was supposed to happen. He realizes everything has gotten completely out of hand. Someone asks him if he didn't hear the order to evacuate. It's the president, who immediately slices a monster in half right after. He can't even hear what she's saying, completely focused on finding a way to fix this. He knows he has to turn the tables somehow or at least fight back. She asks if he's deaf, but he still tunes her out, completely locked in on solving this mess no matter what. A girl asks Elmer why she's just standing there when the whole student council needs to gather. She tells her senior to go on ahead. Our MC asks her to cover for him just this once. He tells her they might actually be able to save the school. He asks her to remember everything he's done up until now. He admits he might be weird, but she knows he never acts without a plan. The girl with glasses tells her to bring the MC along quickly because they need her. She asks the president why she's just standing there. The president replies that this will be the absolute last time she trusts him, and with that, the two of them start running together. The girl with glasses thinks the president is a total idiot. They warn everyone that the clock tower is the source of the monsters, and even stronger creatures will be waiting there. Raising his hand, our MC says the two of them can't handle this alone and need their help. He asks for assistance, but a man replies that he has no idea what he's talking about. They claim to just be delegates from the Holy Empire. Our MC calls them out, pointing out they're actually exorcists under the Pope's direct command disguised as observers. They keep playing dumb saying they have no clue what he means. The MC says he knows why they're here, especially since he recently provoked the Pope. He states that their group's sole purpose is to keep eyes on him. The man replies that even if that's true, they're under no obligation to help. He tells him not to care if the school falls as long as he stays alive. The MC asks if he's hearing him clearly, because he knows exactly where the item she's looking for is. He reminds them that tons of people are losing their lives right now, so for their own good, they'd better lend a hand right away. He makes it clear he doesn't care what means he has to use to win, even if every villain in the world tries to hold him back and cause him pain. At that, the person starts scratching their head, thinking it over. She stares at the MC with a look of pure disbelief. The MC just watches to see if the group is actually going to step up. That's when she pulls down her hood, revealing a really gorgeous woman underneath. Once he earns their trust, getting the group to the tower is a breeze. Just as he expected, a massive horde of powerful monsters is waiting at the site. It really looks like the strongest creatures gathered there, as if waiting for a final boss battle. As they walk, the woman says she doesn't know how he blew their cover, but she'll want an explanation later. Meanwhile, the president just watches the whole thing with a furious glare. The short-haired woman looks heavily armed and ready to handle the threat. She tells him that once this is over, he'd better take full responsibility for every word he said. Meanwhile, Ceres puts on an absolute show, fighting with her insane skills. And it's not just her. The whole squad is tearing through the enemy. He thinks about how ridiculous their power is, but warns the president that they don't have time and need to reach the clock tower fast. And right at the top of that tower is where the enemy is waiting for them. As they walk, she demands some answers and warns him she doesn't want to hear any lame excuses. She complains that he's never been honest with her since the day they met, always hiding things and changing the subject. Still, she knows he's always had a good reason for acting like that, which is the only reason she's stuck by his side this long. So she tells him to drop the stories and just focus on what needs to be done right now. He thanks her for having his back, while she admits she's only helping because of how weird he is. Plus, deep down, she actually thinks he's a decent guy in his own way. As they keep talking, a giant shadow starts creeping over the area. An original monster appears, an immortal creature with near-infinite regeneration. Since the only way through is to lure the beast away, he asks if she can draw its attention, but she prefers to do things her way and decides she's just going to force her way through. Without a second thought, she fires off a massive attack straight at the monster. He realizes her plan is to just slice the thing to pieces once and for all. She goes all out, but the creature heals way faster than she can damage it. Suddenly, he has to shout a warning. A heavy blow is coming at her from the right. The giant monster is already swinging, ready to crush her. Panicking, he screams at her to defend herself as fast as she can. Right then, all he sees is her sprinting straight forward. She has zero intention of backing down. In fact, she's charging right in. To her, the best defense is a good offense, so she lunges head-on at the disgusting thing. She reminds herself that she's a Tristan, and she's ready to lay down her life in this fight. Even so, with every passing second, it becomes obvious she's severely outmatched. He was right all along. There really are monsters that even her family's famous swordsmanship can't cut down. This was expected from a creature built to be immortal, and now they're running out of time to climb the tower. The problem is, he can't just abandon her in the state she's in. That's when she calls out to him, telling him that even if she falls here, he has to keep going and save the academy. He can't believe what he's hearing. Ditching an ally was never his style. He's furious seeing such a strong girl completely break down just because her sword snapped. No matter what the system or the original story says, she's the absolute last person who should be showing weakness like this. He refuses to stand by and watch someone who's supposed to be a top boss get humiliated like this. He's not going to let her give up and turn into a demon, so he calls out to her. He tells her that since this seems like the end, he wants to say one last thing before he goes. He leans in and whispers something in her ear, a phrase so powerful it makes the spark return to her eyes. It hits her so hard that her energy instantly surges back, giving her a whole second wind to fight. Meanwhile, the monster goes in for a cheap shot, thinking she's defenseless, but it's way too late for the creature now. She's out for blood and ready to tear apart anything in her way. She hurls herself back at the monster, showing what she's truly capable of even with a shattered sword. The look in her eyes completely changes. She doesn't even look human anymore. She might not seem human right now, but that pure rage gives her the sheer strength to slaughter anything in front of her. At the top of the clock tower, the figure waiting for them remarks that such a serious face doesn't suit the main character at all. Then he just scoffs, muttering that youth really is a wonderful thing. He actually finds it admirable that Dawood tried to stop him in a situation like this. Of course, they made a bet, so our MC better not forget it. With that, multiple magic circles start floating in the air. Floating above them, the guy says he hates demons, and he hates those disgusting fighters just as much. Dawood knows why. They kept him trapped and suffering for thousands of years. It's ironic that someone who claims to hate demons would team up with the prophet seeking their power. In the original story, the prophet made a deal targeting the Boy King's ultimate desire. He promised to give the boy the death he craved if he destroyed Elephant Academy, a promise to finally end a life where dying was impossible. His kingdom's people were turned into forbidden art just to seal him away, but now that tragic life can finally end. After suffering for so long, the Boy King had to choose between trusting a demon or a villain. In the end, he chooses the harder path because he knows it's the right thing to do. To save himself and his kingdom, he asks if our MC knows the way. Dawood just listens to him talk while coming up with a new strategy in his head. And of course the MC knows the way, otherwise he wouldn't be this confident. The demon's vessel asks if he gets the situation, since he's left with no choice but to attack. Our MC knows the guy won't rest in peace until they go all out in a fight. He floats down, unleashing a barrage of magic, and tells the MC to give it everything he's got. Meanwhile, young Aaliyah thinks she needs to warn the others first, since she's the only one with experience. She warns them to be careful not to bite their tongues, while the dark-haired girl stares in disbelief at their speed. She tells them to drop their items, but the blonde girl says she's fine and trusts her balance. After giving her warnings, Aaliyah decides to just let them learn the hard way. She hits the switch to launch everyone, while the dark-haired girl asks for a second to focus. All three are launched successfully, but even though she's done this before, Aaliyah still can't get used to it. Elsewhere, the demon keeps attacking, telling his opponent not to disappoint him. Finally, reality hits our MC hard, leaving him completely frozen in place. He tries to recall the attack patterns for the tentacles and lasers, deciding it's best to dodge and prepare a sword technique. The Tristan family technique should be enough to start with, but then he changes his mind and sheathes his sword. He decides to rush in while dodging everything, using the movement commands he already memorized. Meanwhile, the enemy mocks him, saying he thought he came to fight, not play tag. It's a huge disappointment for the monster, but he's not going to pull his punches. Now he's going all out, firing lasers from all those creepy mouths. Luckily, the veteran dodge zone works here too, which is a huge relief for our MC. He just needs to keep the guy in combat, since the guy has a death wish and maxed out stats. When he looks up, he sees chunks of the monster flying through the air. That's a good sign. It means Elmer won her fight. He remembers that when this type of monster dies, its brain or heart explodes. Right then, the monster attacks him again. A massive explosion goes off, confirming she really finished her battle. Caught off guard, our MC takes a heavy hit and crashes to the ground. The monster asks him if he actually feels like fighting now. He responds by asking if they can just wait a little bit longer. The guy explains his situation, saying that once this form is revealed, there's no stopping it. As expected, he doesn't show much emotion, but says he'll remember his courage for a long time. Just as he's about to throw what looks like the final blow, someone shows up right on time to protect Dawood. This completely catches the monster off guard, since it was just the two of them a second ago. The two women worship her not to worry, because they're taking him down right now. A beautiful blonde angel has arrived to save the guy. The sweet dark-haired girl says she came to save her master, relieved to see he's still safe. Elia slams down onto the ground as well, fully intent on defending her friend. She praises him for holding out so long and asks if he missed her. With visible relief on his face, he says they couldn't have timed their arrival any better. Yuria is thrilled, pointing out that the iron tiara really works since she can actually stand near people now. She thanks her master for it, and promises she won't let anyone hurt him. He thinks to himself that there's more to it, because the curse doesn't just disappear when you use the item. It turns into an offensive debuff power that stays stored until the curse finally breaks completely at the right moment. Only the protective blessing remains, granting her a set of golden armor. The demon finally loses his cool, and says he's completely sick of all this talking. Our protagonist realizes this entire situation is completely outside normal logic, so he tells everyone to follow his exact orders, and that's how they're gonna win. First off, nobody moves from their assigned positions, no matter what. He makes it clear that a single mistake means game over, so everyone needs to stay fully focused. Yuria mentions to the angel that this is the first time they're actually fighting side by side. She feels amazing finally being able to fight without any chains holding her back. Dawood tells them to focus because the enemy is closing in, ordering Lucian to prep Blessing 37 and stand by. He tells Elia to get ready to push forward, just like they practiced on their intense training day. As for Yuria, she's free to slice through everything in her path. Anything that moves gets cut. With that, the enemy steps up, ready to wreck everything. Our main guy warns everyone about the danger, reminding them that a single scratch will completely paralyze them. Lucian complains that Dawood is calling all the shots, but doesn't seem to have any faith in them at all. The first strike is successfully blocked, but he yells for the girl to duck and watch out for the tentacles. He instructs Yuria to duck after the first strike, and repeat the block as soon as he gives the signal. Right after blocking, she needs to take a few steps back, without getting too far away. The plan is to maintain the sweet spot for a counterattack. Not too far, but not close enough to get hit if he rushes in. The cultist tries hitting her from every possible angle using his tentacles. He orders Elia to move in for an attack, but she hesitates, remembering that even a scratch could take her out. Noticing her hesitation, he tells Lucian to hit Elia with an attack buff immediately. He tells the warrior in training not to worry because everything is going exactly according to plan. She keeps sprinting forward, ready to slice apart anything in her way. Her instructions are simple: run in, hit the monster, give it her all, and repeat. Watching all this go down, the demon gets confused, unable to wrap his head around how a group fighting him for the very first time hasn't made a single mistake, except for the saint. Lucian keeps giving it everything she's got, because leading a raid like this is no easy task. Meanwhile, Yuria gets called out for holding down the front line like an absolute boss. They need to go all out this time, and Elia is more ready than ever. The Guardian isn't stopping his barrage anytime soon. With that much firepower behind his attacks, he actually sliced a few of those monsters straight in half. A huge burst of flames goes up, completely engulfing the enemy. Elia gets ready to unleash another round, but it's already clear the boss is feeling the damage. Seeing them synchronize like this, our MC realizes they actually have a real shot at winning. The problem is, the demon seems ready to ramp up his attacks even further now. It's like he's flexing the fact that he was just playing around until now. Meanwhile, the protective barrier constantly needs to be refreshed, but even Adelante has her limits in a high-intensity fight like this. She's running on fumes and about to completely exhaust her mana. They need to finish this fast before it's too late. The fight stays brutal, and everyone is pushing past their limits. Lucian and Yuria are hyper-focused on securing the kill. From back where he's watching, the MC notices they're about to change their attack pattern and yells at them to hold off. He calls out to Elia, telling her it's time to crush the boss, and orders her to charge up a massive attack. The demon still thinks he's in total control, finding the battle predictable and boring. He's losing patience with playing around, while the MC keeps barking out commands. He orders Elia to dodge to the side and gives Lucian the green light to unleash her ultimate buff. The second she gets the order, she immediately gets into position to pull it off. Out of nowhere, Yuria pulls off a picture-perfect counterattack that catches everyone off guard. The hit is so precise it leaves even the cultist completely shaken. The chains keep getting pulled with insane force. Right then, Lucian remembers the promise of salvation, and tells him it's time to pay for his sins. It's pretty obvious she has a deeply personal score to settle with Valcasus. She activates her ultimate power, Proof of Faith, making the top of the tower light up like sunrise. The strike lands clean to deliver the exact end he was promised. It looks like it's all over, and he's finally going to break free from the chains holding him, except Lucian notices Valcasus is somehow still tanking the attack. He screams in total desperation that he can't die here, because if he dies, he won't be able to save his kingdom. Seeing him refuse to go down, the girl puts even more power behind the blow, and with that, he starts screaming in unbearable agony. Watching everything unfold from a distance, Elia gets an idea and starts closing in. She knows this is their only window, so she needs to act fast. Realizing he survived even with his heart pierced, she decides it's time for extreme measures. Just then, the MC rushes over to her, tells her to stay calm, and praises her great job in the fight. He orders her to fall back with the other two, saying he's taking over the rest of the battle himself. He thinks he's lost his mind. After all, the boss is still standing even after tanking all those direct hits. He tells her he's not crazy, and that he knows exactly how much HP this monster has left. He warns her that if she doesn't head down, everyone is going to get dragged into this. He thanks her for following the plan, but lets her know that from here on out, it's his turn. Once again, he has to trust someone else, and he's not comfortable with it at all. So he asks the Saintess to head down with Yuria. After all, she's a hero candidate, so she can't let any student die. The problem is that he sounds just like her brother used to, back when he promised he wouldn't die, and would come back in one piece. But that's not really how she remembers things happening in the past. There's no way this is real, because they talk the exact same way. Even their smiles are identical. Except our main guy has absolutely no intention of losing here. He walks over to the monster, which seems under control now, and in absolute agony. And that's the exact problem. Watching him walk away like that gives her the feeling she'll never see his face again. She tries calling out to say something, but the words just won't come out. Seeing her struggle, Lucian steps in and tells her to get down immediately, warning that taking the stairs will be way too slow. He calls her name again, and with nothing else she can do, Elia just grips the hilt of her sword tight, and just like that she lets herself be taken down along with the other two. Our MC knows that the condition to lift his curse is winning a fair duel. The thing is, right now, the only one capable of giving him a fair fight is Dawood, the weakest human, with F rank all across his stats. Now he's going to combine the soul binder with the demonic essence, since evil souls love being slotted in. He even asks Elia's brother if it hurts a lot. Crossing his arms, the brother replies that it'd be ridiculous to think it doesn't, but our MC stays totally calm and doesn't ask another thing. Right then, the stigma skill activates. With that, he brings the object close to the demon. In an instant, an empty void takes over, and his eyes snap wide open. Right after comes an agonizing pain, as if every single fiber of his body is tearing apart. The pain drags on for minutes, creating a world made of nothing but agony, darkness, and emptiness. Then, out of nowhere, a light appears in the distance. But right away, the pain hits 1,000 times harder, becoming almost impossible to withstand. It feels like all he has to do is reach that distant image. It's an image of a young boy sitting all alone, looking deep in thought. He's surrounded by flames, where everything looks like it's about to be wiped out in seconds. The kid just watches the fire burn everything down, like he's completely given up on changing his fate. As the flames consume everything, he just sits there, completely mesmerized by the destruction. And slowly, it looks like the fire is going to swallow him whole, too. Suddenly, something catches his attention in the middle of it all, making him turn around to look. Now, our MC is standing right there with the boy, but he knows if he doesn't get out soon, he'll get dragged down by those memories. He says he came here not just to save the kids, but the entire kingdom, which was exactly what the blonde kid figured, because he knew this guy walked in aware of all the risks, facing it head-on from start to finish. With that, he declares victory, and says his thanks. Meanwhile, holding up the barrier is getting harder by the second. Then suddenly, something weird happens. The barrier starts fixing itself. There was only one explanation for this. That brilliant student must have pulled it off. It's insane to see the barrier almost completely restored, and seeing the entire sky light up right above the clock tower makes it look even crazier. All of a sudden, the sky bursts into a whole bunch of different colors. System windows start popping up, announcing that the main quest is complete and rewarding a tons of points. Even though he won, he's totally exhausted. He barely made it out of there in one piece. When he wakes up, the first thing he sees is Elmer staring right at him with those intense red eyes. Having her there at that moment actually feels really comforting. He asks if she came up right after beating the monsters, worried she might be mad at him for leaving her behind. She tells him that's not why she's mad. The real reason is something else. She explains that she ran into the warrior candidate and the saintess outside the tower. Since they helped defeat the warlock, she feels like she was the one left out this time. She wants to know why she wasn't brought along for such a big moment, acting totally jealous. So he musters up some courage and asks her straight to her face if she's jealous. Suddenly his expression changes, turning serious and kind of surprised. That's because he notices an item on the ground showing that all the dark art curses have finally been lifted. He knows the boy can finally rest from his burden and that all those people are at peace now. He can even picture a conversation between them in his head. He's so tired that he just lays back on the ground and stares up at the sky, but he notices someone watching him while he looks at the sky. So he decides to change the subject and asks her what she wants to do next. Since she beat the monster all by herself, rumors are going to spread and more mercenaries will come after her. But she doesn't care about any of that, telling him to forget it and focus on what she actually cares about. She makes sure to remind him that he still owes her dinner, since they didn't get to eat together last time. Right after that, some good news comes in. Because of the clock tower incident, vacation is starting early. He's super relieved. Break is finally here. The rumor is that someone chopped the building in half, so they have to do repairs. Even so, a few of them still have to stay behind at the academy. An official document from the Holy Empire arrives, and RMC might have just figured out their weakness. Holding a beautiful bouquet of flowers, Yuria mentions how attentive her master is, and of course he'd do whatever it takes to keep the two of them together. Her smile as she fixes the flowers makes that pretty clear. Even without stressing too much, she knows the Emperor isn't the type to give up on what he wants. Still, she knows running away isn't the answer anymore, now that she found someone she can truly trust. Lucienne smiles, joking that she can't even tell who the older sister is sometimes. She says it's fine though, since they're twins anyway, born just a few minutes apart. Suddenly a new girl walks into the room, telling them to quiet down. Their talking is messing up her reading, and she even tells the blonde girl to pay for her tobacco. Meanwhile, you can see a nice framed portrait on a table, looking like a big, happy family. Elia asks Trisha if she really thinks she has what it takes to be the warrior candidate, but her friend never had any doubts. After all, she was the one who handled the whole mess at the clock tower. As she says this, she looks at a picture of her brother with a heavy heart, missing him deeply. She wants to become a warrior, but she misses her family so much. Her friend asks if what's weighing on her more is her worry for her family, or a thirst for revenge. She replies that she's just blindly following in her brother's footsteps, trying to fill the void her family left behind. But her friend thinks otherwise, saying maybe she's already found someone to fill that void, and just hasn't realized it yet. Meanwhile, in a place lit up by magic, the woman warns our main guy that the demon worshippers will keep coming after him, so he can't let his guard down. He says he's used to it by now, and stays on high alert all the time anyway. Still, she insists he needs to rest, reminding him that's the whole point of them taking a break. She tells him to relax a bit, and he agrees he needs to recharge now that he's moved on to chapter 2. He also thinks back to the prophet, wondering if that demon worshipper was actually a woman all along. When it comes down to it, he just can't remember if they were really a woman from the start. Right then, the woman gets a sudden idea and catches him completely off guard. She wants him to take a trip back to his hometown with someone, and then come right back. She tells him she already let the warrior candidate know that the two of them are going together. With that all off, the student council president is coming along, too. It's a ton of information to drop on him at once, and now the three of them are heading off to his hometown together.